always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and the 53-man roster is trickling out as the cuts happen. We find out which players are making it. We have some of those, and as the information continues to come out, we're going to bring more and more of that information, but we have a lot to talk about, Alex, along the way.
That is very, very true indeed. Cafefe Coffee, how you doing, good sir? Look, there's a lot of things to talk about with this, so make sure you hit that like button right now. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't already, TCC, make sure you share this with the rest of the Cutback Crew and the faithful. Put it out there. That way they know where to come look for 53-man roster announcements live as they're happening, a little bit of analysis and breakdown reacting to what's going on. We'll maybe even talk about some other guys that are being kept by the Falcons, and probably not, oh my gosh, I can't believe Josh Rosen made an active 53-man roster. Good for Josh Rosen. A little bit surprising. Bad for the Falcons if anything happens to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, it's a dumpster fire. You're going to be picking in the top 10 again if that happens. And I agree with Chris Biederman right now. As he says, 49ers, you up? Yeah, that's my question as well. As we are hanging ever so closely to every single thing that is put out there, as it's getting leaked to these sources of who's going to make the roster. And I think we'll get into this with it this way. As Matt Miyoko just put us out there in the last few minutes, is that Jalen Hurd has made this roster. It's a curious spot. No shock to us that he is on the football team, but I had to go ahead and start there because I think that was a big question, who was going to be the 6 receivers. And with Jalen Hurd making the team, and it appears Juwan Jennings has made the team because the 49ers released Travis Benjamin and Simba Webster. Haven't heard anything on River Craycraft yet, but it would appear that River Craycraft would not make it over Juwan Jennings.
No, let's be realistic here. Let's be honest. That's not what's happening here. So with the release of Travis Benjamin and the release, right, of Simba Webster, Craycraft is obviously also going to go, which means it is definitely going to be Juwan Jennings and Jalen Hurd being kept on the roster. And this was one of the ones that we were up in the air about. It was coming down the wire, right, to Jennings and to Travis Benjamin. But also some other things came out on that as well, and that was Travis Benjamin was going to be owed his full salary if he were to make his team on the jump, on the get-go from day one. So this could have been a situation where they're going to save the money short-term right now and make some moves here later on and potentially bring Travis Benjamin back onto this roster if they put some guys onto IR. It's all going to come down to, right, if he clears waivers, if no one else goes after him.
Yeah, and before I talk about that, add another name to the list, as Darion Daniels has been released by the 49ers. Not too shocking. He's a player that has some ability, but hasn't proven that he is ready to start on or play significant minutes for this 49ers defensive line. So add him to the list. But you're right. Travis Benjamin is some of these guys they have to make some hard decisions about. You bring him back later when the guaranteed money is not there. Also, it's going to be interesting to see who ultimately makes a 53-man roster and then goes to the IR. And once those IR numbers come out, then we'll probably have a few guys that'll end up back on the roster. The 49ers are having to play games with the roster to make sure they don't lose anyone. So I completely expect Maurice Hurst to end up on the short-term IR at some point, and then them bring back another guy. But these cuts were we knew they were inevitable. We knew they were going to come. And I think me and you both agreed that somebody like Simba Webster needed to do more in the receiving game. He needed to be more of a option in that area, and he wasn't, and that's why he had to go. I get that people really wanted him and I thought he could do something, but I think Elijah Mitchell proved that he could handle business out there, and the 49ers must have a lot of confidence in what they can get from Brandon Ayuk in that return game, because they really did release pretty much all their return guys. Unless they're planning on bringing Travis Benjamin back, then this was an interesting move. Mohamed Sanu and Brandon Ayuk are probably going to handle most of those, and maybe Ambry Thomas and Elijah Mitchell will handle the rest.
Correct. And look, that's just the reality of the situation. And I know some people are upset about some of the moves, and people are going to be talking about them. Kyle Neely just said here in the chat he was over Jason and Ponte's stream, and Ponte was talking about just now essentially the fact that he can't believe, he was mad at Neely there for commenting about he'd rather have Hurd's contract than a guy like John Brown or something along those lines, because John Brown was just cut by the Raiders as well. So he's a guy who's available. And of course, as soon as a receiver becomes available, for some reason, everyone wants to talk about adding more receivers to this group.
Yeah.
John Brown at this point of his career doesn't make sense to what the 49ers try and do. he is not a versatile, diverse kind of guy. He is more of a Kendrick Bourne-esque type of slot possession type of receiver. Not the fastest guy in the world anymore, very reliable, can get open. But we have guys that do that for this team already. He doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, he doesn't. He has a completely different skill set than Jalen Hurd.
Accurate.
Why would you do something like that? That would be like, yeah, let's go out and let's get. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of somebody because this doesn't even make sense. Let's go get Nelson Aguilar in place of Deebo Samuel. That makes no sense at all. That is basically what you're saying here with John Brown. I don't understand that take at all. The one thing I will say is when you're putting together a roster, you're trying to find the right ingredients to be able to do what you want to do as an offense. We don't need a John Brown. We have a Jawan Jennings. We have a Muhammad Sanu. So that to me that doesn't make any sense. But I get it. I mean, there needs to be talking points, and there's a lot of people that really hate on Jalen Hurd, and that's fine. But you know what? Now Jalen Hurd is going to get to produce for this football team. He's on this 53-man roster, and we'll get to see what he's going to do. Now is the time where we can completely judge. It's no longer going to be what he could be. It's what he is. And he's going to have to go out there and produce every week, and Kyle's going to have to use him. And if he fails, then it's completely on Jalen Hurd and Kyle Shanahan, and they'll have to eat it. But he's not going to fail because Kyle's going to put him in positions to be successful.
Correct. That is very accurate indeed. Listen, we stick at some skill position players. We just talked about two wideouts, Travis Benjamin and Simba Webster, that were cut. Another skill position guy that was cut was running back Wayne Gallman. So Wayne Gallman cut. He's not on the roster, which means JaMychal Tasty freaking Hasty, right, and Elijah Mitchell are both going to be on this 53-man active roster. You're going to roll with Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon. You're going to roll with Elijah Mitchell. You're going to roll with Tasty Hasty and what he's shown, and obviously Kyle Juszczyk with Jeff Wilson Jr. sitting on IR waiting in the wings to return. This is the prediction that we made for this running back room. This is what we thought was going to happen. Just based on what we saw in that last preseason game and the way things were trending, it looked like that was going to be the case, and now Wayne Gallman's going to have an opportunity to go get picked up by someone else.
Yeah, Gallman's a good player, and I think that he would have had a better chance to make this team if Hasty wouldn't have stepped up to the level he is. But just think about that. If Jeff Wilson Jr. doesn't get hurt, you're probably letting go of one of these rookies or having to trade them. I mean, that's how good this 49ers running back room is. There's no shame in the game of Wayne Gallman not making it. When it came down to it, he just wasn't as explosive as the other guys, didn't have as much dynamics, but he was a very talented inside runner and can be very successful around the red zone. I fully expect him to land somewhere, and hopefully it's not in the NFC West because I don't want to have to face this guy twice.
No.
I'm not really interested in that at all. So this was a tough one, but I think ultimately we talked about this in our Project 53. This was what was going to happen. JaMychal Hasty earned himself a roster spot. And we had talked about this way back with Chapman. Is there an opportunity for Hasty to make this team? And ultimately there was.
There was, and it was going to be a tough hill to climb. We said that in our Hasty versus Gallman matchup that we had in our predictions. At the time, we felt Gallman had the heads up because of all the things he could do in the red zone, the diversity in the inside run game, but that Tasty Hasty had all of the skill sets that he needed to be a guy who could make this roster. He just needed to clean things up. He had to become a more explosive runner. He had to be able to get downhill better than he had been doing in the past, and he showed in the previous year. He had to expand upon the things that he put on tape in the 2020 season. He did that, and he did it in a big way in the second preseason game, and he did it in a huge way in the third preseason game. And you know, we were sitting there in the second half watching JaMychal Hasty get touches, watching Wayne Gallman going in and afterwards and get touches, and both of us looked at each other and were like, yeah, you know what? Hasty is just that much more explosive than Wayne Gallman. It shows there's a difference. While Hasty may not be the fastest guy in the world in Kyle Shanahan's system, he's fast enough to make big runs and make big plays, and that's what you need.
Yeah, and they must have saw enough improvement in the pass protection game.
Absolutely.
Hasty and Elijah Mitchell, needed to improve that because Wayne Gallman's excellent at it. So they must have saw enough improvement or think they can get enough improvement out of it. So that was a tough move, but it was one that had to be made. I think another spot, Alex, that people were interested in was that fourth safety spot. And it was cleared up very early, kind of this morning, as the 49ers released Clinton Dix, making it so they are keeping Tavon Wilson. This was no shock to us. We thought Dix had a good training camp, but not good enough to beat Tavon Wilson, who played excellent all through training camp in the preseason.
Correct. This is another guy who they came out, contract details. He was going to be owed his full 2021 salary on the jump, on the get-go, if he made this 53-man roster. So you have that compiled with, and on top of the fact that there are questions and concerns about this guy in coverage at times. Yes, I know he's a turnover magnet, as some people have stated and have said. He's a guy that has been around the football and been able to make plays. However, he does give up plays on the other side as well, and Tavon Wilson has been solid start to finish all camp long. This just makes sense. When Jimmy Ward was down early on, Tavon Wilson was out there running. When Jaquiski Tartt ended up going down, Tavon Wilson flips over to the other side. He's running opposite, right, of Jimmy Ward when Jimmy Ward's out there. This is a guy who's a jack of all trades. He can do whatever you need him to do in that secondary, on top of the fact that Talanoa Hufanga has developed the way he's developed. I know Jared Maiden hasn't officially been released yet, but you can pretty much guarantee it if they've already made this move here, right, with this guy, with HaHa Clinton-Dixon, he's been cut and released. Jared Maiden's going, this is your 4.
Yeah, I thought Jared Maiden was a possibility to get traded. We know that Jonas Griffith got traded this morning in the interesting deal with Denver, where the 49ers turned in, undrafted free agent into draft capital, getting a 6th-round pick this year. I know they've did a bunch of flops, so it ends up being almost even, just kind of flipping when you're drafting over the next 2 drafts. But I think that it was a solid move. I hated to see Jonas go, but I love the fact that Jonas is going to get an opportunity to shine because I think he's a very good player, very talented, and a good dude. And I want to see him be successful. So when he's in games, I will root for Denver because I want to see him do well. Yeah. That is one thing about him is I really do. I think this was probably a tough decision to make. But that kind of cleared up a little bit of the linebacker situation. They also released Elijah Sullivan as well. So Sullivan's gone. He's probably a good candidate for the practice squad.
Absolutely.
We have not heard what is going to come down yet with Hilliard or Flanagan Foles or Marcel Harris.
That's still definitely up in the air, and this is one of the few positions in which we had some discussion about in our Project 53. If you missed that after the stream gets done, make sure you go check that out. This was one that we definitely had questions about, this linebacker room. Who were going to be the guys that they kept? Who do they go with after Fred Warner, after Dre Greenlaw, after Al Shire? There's questions. Who are the guys that you're actually going to be rolling with after that? And now there's 3 names left, right, for essentially what we believe is going to be 2 spots with this team. And so it's going to come down to the wire because you could go any combination of these guys, right? You could really, in theory, go with any of them, especially now with Jonas Griffith moving on. That was the only other name we thought could sneak into this room. Instead, we're able to trade, improve the draft position right this year. So we'll see what happens.
And a small little update on what is taking so long for the 49ers list to get out there is apparently John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are individually FaceTiming every player who made the roster to tell them over that way. So that is what is taking a little bit longer, a little bit of a delay. So we got that going on.
What a class act.
Yeah, 100%.
Class act.
We had some moves on the offensive line too. There were some big questions. We had discussed in our Project 53 whether it was going to be Sean Coleman or Jake Brendel that made this roster. Now it appears it could be neither one. Coleman comes down with a tricep injury. So he's probably going to be on the shelf. The 49ers will have to make a move there. But they also cut Brendel. So Brendel did not make the roster. You add Clemente to that. And then this is not confirmed. This is just my thought process on this is that you're going to see Corbin Kafasi get cut as well. They cut him once. They're going to cut him again. So that is going to come down the pipe. I think that is one like River Craycraft where we know it's inevitable. So I just wanted to put those out there too. Those are the 3 offensive linemen so far that have been moved and cut. And let's see what they do. It appears they're going to keep 8. And if they keep 8 offensive linemen, that sure does signal possibly they're going to keep 11 defensive linemen, but we sure haven't heard about Sudfeld either, so we don't know for sure if that's still a possibility.
That is true. In our Project 53, that's what we had. We had Sudfeld gone. We had them keeping 9 offensive linemen and only 10 defensive linemen. However, with them only keeping 8, that opens up that spot. We cut here on the cutback. We cut Kevin Givens. So Kevin Givens was off of our active 53-man roster. So if, in fact, the Niners don't keep that 3rd quarterback, they don't keep Nate Sudfeld, that opens that spot up. Kevin Givens could actually slide into this roster. And that was a name that we had toyed around with the Maurice Hurst idea, right? If Maurice Hurst is a guy you're keeping that you could stash on IR for 3 weeks, you could potentially cut Kevin Givens and hopefully, if he sneaks by waivers, bring him back into the 53-man roster. Afterwards, it was always going to be difficult. But now with this roster move, right, with these corresponding moves on the offensive line, the guys that they let go, the guys that were pretty certain they're going to let go, Jake Brendel already gone, Kufasi probably coming up next, Sean Coleman already being parted ways with, the door's open.
Well, Coleman, they haven't officially parted ways, but the IR seems inevitable for him because of the tricep injury.
Accurate.
Because, anytime you hear Kyle Shanahan say you're going to be out for a significant amount of time, you're not going to be able to contribute to this roster, so...
Correct. No, you're not wrong there. You're definitely 100% right there. But there's going to be some interesting moves and ways to maneuver and manipulate this roster now.
Yes.
Kyle Shanahan, known for keeping the 3 quarterbacks. We felt that this was the year that he could eventually move away from it. But now with the injuries at the O-line to Coleman, with them moving probably on and away from him, bringing in this roster the way that it's currently constituted, maybe Kyle Shanahan wants to keep that extra quarterback around because he has that extra spot to play with. Maybe he values that third quarterback more than extra depth. I doubt that he values the extra D-line depth over quarterback. But at the end of the day, it's going to be his call, right? If he really wants to keep Nate Sudfeld around, he will.
Yeah, and we haven't heard very much information about the D-line at all. Like, we haven't heard about Alex Barrett. We haven't heard about Yarbrough.
Correct.
We haven't heard of, besides Darion Daniels. That's the only one we've heard. So they still got big decisions that are going to be coming down the pipe. Maybe they were trying to work out last-second trades. It makes sense.
Possible.
But you had some other moves as well. They addressed the tight end position. We thought this was the year they go back to 3 tight ends. There was no Jordan Reed. And they addressed it that clearly as Michael Pruitt gone, which shocks the people. Didn't shock me. Didn't shock you.
It didn't. Where does the Michael Pruitt love come from? I think you and I both thought this guy had the possibility to push Warner, and maybe at the start of training camp, right? I think we both thought that he might have if not the heads up over Warner, he was definitely going to be pushing Warner.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He gets injured early on, and Charlie Warner comes out and has an absolutely incredible camp. I mean, this guy is improved in his route running. The hands are there. He's able to catch the ball down the field. He's able to make plays within the offense. Kyle Shanahan on plenty of different practices that we were at and in games, schemes Charlie Warner wide open, and Charlie Warner executes and makes big plays. In the blocking, in the run game, he looks solid and fantastic. Yes, he has some slip-ups, right, in pass protection on a couple different drives, a couple different situations. But if y'all remember last year, so did Ross Dwelley, and Ross Dwelley didn't get any hate. Matter of fact, Ross Dwelley gets incredible amounts of love from these talking heads. It's very funny how a lot of these talking heads feel very one way about one tight end in the room and then completely different about another tight end in the room who's making the same sort of progress and trajectory as the one in front of them.
Oh, I think it's a communication thing with those blocking issues.
Right.
A lot of times they're just blocking the wrong guy. I mean, that's what happens. You have to make sure these tackles are able to work, with the tight end. And then they cut Jordan Matthews, which I know there was a huge push to keep him, but inevitably he was going to end up cut, hopefully land on the practice squad, because you could use this guy eventually down the road if you have some sort of an injury, whether that is to George Kittle, Ross Dwelley. He fits in nice with this roster, and I do like his skill set. I thought he improved in the blocking, but he could benefit from being on the practice squad, get extra practice time with Embry, the tight ends coach, and just really get better. So I don't think these cut surprises. The tight end room has been very clear. I think since Charlie Warner played his first game, where he just looked a lot more seasoned and a very much better player. So I don't think that's a big question. So we got through those pretty good. And since we're talking about tight ends, I'll mention the fullback, Josh Hockett, who gets cut. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up on the practice squad because he would be nice just in case something happens to Kyle Juszczyk. You have him come in. That way you don't have to have one of those tight ends fill that role, even though they do have 2 tight ends, in fact 3 tight ends, that could play that role because
Absolutely.
We've seen Ross Dwelley do it. Charlie Warner did some similar things to that at Georgia, and then George Kittle can do whatever you want him to do.
You mean he's a jack of all trades and is basically one of the most diverse offensive weapons we have on this team?
100%.
Oh my gosh, what an absolute!
I know you're
surprise.
shocked.
I'm more than shocked, and I'm absolutely baffled. And look, it's really I know Cutback Crew, 49ers fans, Jordan Matthews' story. It's nice, it's great. You're really excited about it. You really want this to happen for this guy. Not only is he a good guy, he's an extremely hard worker. He's making this huge sacrifice and this huge jump and this huge change. He's also doing it at a very, very high level. Now, because, I was really worried about some of the blocking stuff with the Jordan Matthews. He hasn't looked as liable in the blocking game, in the run game, as I thought he may.
Right.
So not only is this guy a willing blocker, he's definitely improved. He definitely has all the tools and the pieces, but it's just not there yet. And this isn't a Jordan Reed level of receiving threat. If Jordan Matthews was a Jordan Reed level of receiving threat, we'd be keeping 4 tight ends right now. It would be no question.
It probably wouldn't be keeping Charlie Warner.
There's a good
with
chance.
The way this roster is constituted.
That's probably true.
And it's nothing against Charlie Warner because he's done a very good job. But if you have a Jordan Reed dynamic ability as a receiver.
So now here's the question, right? In an alternate universe, and where this is definitely the case, where Jordan Matthews is a Jordan Reed-esque receiver, did we end up trading Charlie Warner?
Probably. You try to trade him. I don't know if anyone will actually trade for him, but also that would also make somebody like a Jawan Jennings expendable.
It's true.
If you have a Jordan Reed, then he does what Jawan Jennings does. and that way he could fill 2 roster spots. You have an extra spot, right?
Yes.
So that is something that would happen. But this isn't an alternate universe, thank God.
Thank God.
This is the universe we live in. We are on Earth 1.
Thank God. It's Earth 1, and that's what we want to keep it. Stephen Breyer asked, did Jennings make the roster? It looks that way.
Well,
yes.
Right now they've pretty much cut every receiver besides Jennings and River Craycraft that we've seen. And River Craycraft got cut last week and brought back. So sure. I would assume, and this is only an assumption because it's not confirmed.
You mean to tell me that the one catch he had in the Week 3 preseason game wasn't enough to solidify the roster for River Craycraft?
No, but I do think River Craycraft is either him or Simba Webster ends up on this practice squad.
Who would you prefer to see there? Because personally, I would rather see a guy like Simba Webster down there because I think he has more potential. What he could add to this team, there's a higher upside with Simba Webster than River Craycraft.
I agree because he adds more in the return game.
Yes.
I don't think either one adds very much in the receiving game, but I do think River Craycraft is a better receiver than Simba Webster.
Right now, yes.
But you can use Simba Webster to do he can do things for you on the practice squad as far as returning kicks and stuff that makes your special teams so much better. That's why he makes more sense on the practice squad.
Luke Luna, watch them send Jennings to the practice squad and keep Craycraft to do returns. It was all because River Craycraft reached out on that one punt return, right, and got that additional yard. That's what did it.
Don't you put that evil on me.
I don't want that out there.
Don't you put that evil on me.
I don't want that. I don't want that out there in the ether at all. No way. Look, Luke, if that happens, we may end the stream. We may end the stream in just absolute and utter despair.
And news is coming out slow, by the way.
It's extremely slow. I mean, this is what we figured was going to happen. This is why we pushed it back a little bit. We wanted to give ourselves some more time for more information to come out. Look, we were lucky enough to be on when Darrion Daniels got released, so we got one there live. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
Also, cornerback Alexander Myers got cut.
That's true. Yeah. So Alexander Myers is also gone in that cornerback room. Again, nothing there that's a shock to either one of us here.
Yeah.
Pretty much for the most part, right? Project 53 right now, our Project 53 is playing out pretty much as we kind of foreseen. The tough decisions were obviously the quarterback room and what you're doing there. We didn't feel the running back room was a tough decision because we felt this was the route they were going to go, keep the young, explosive running backs. The wide receiver room, the only question was, what does Kyle Shanahan value more? Juwan Jennings' ability to be a piece and tool like the other guys they already have, and his ability, the big, strong physicalness in the middle of the field.
Yep.
Or Travis Benjamin's ability, right, to operate underneath and stretch the defense over the top. There may have been some outside factors that played into that decision that we didn't even consider.
It's a money thing. It appears to be a big money thing, which I don't get too much into the money. I go completely off talent and scheme, but you have to think about money when you're front office. And it appears that Juwan Jennings and Travis Benjamin are probably very even on making this roster. And when you have the chance to save a lot of money, I mean, you're saving almost $650,000 by cutting Travis Benjamin. So yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you add that up, over a few players that you're able to cut, it gives you a little bit more flexibility to do something later on in the year, where ultimately the salary cap is a big deal. So that could be. So we'll see what happens there.
Luke asks, do you think they are trying their hand at any last-minute trades by doing this slow or making pickups as other teams cut players?
I think that they were dragging it out as far as trades up to the 1 o'clock time, but their cuts had to be into the NFL by then. So it's official now.
The roster's official. We just don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is because they're waiting to release it. And so we're just waiting on the 49ers, and they're doing their due diligence as far as this is a delicate situation because we talk about these players, as numbers. But when these are people, right? They had to tell 27 people today that, their dream of playing in the NFL has taken an alternate route. Some of these guys are never going to get the opportunity to play for, an NFL team again. And other guys are going to land somewhere else. It's a kind of a hard thing. So remember that when we're talking about this, yes, I mean, we talk about it like it's no big deal, but really it is a big deal for these people and their families because they had a thought in mind that they were going to be an NFL football player and they were going to be able to provide for their family for years to come. And so it is a big deal. So just remember that why we're going through this, because a lot of times it can just get down to, well, we got numbers, right? We got to cut this guy. When you take the emotion out of it, it's easier for us because we don't have those personal relationships with these guys. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have personal relationships, and they're such good people. I guarantee today's a sucky day for them.
It's not a fun day. It's not a fun day at all whatsoever. Look, there's going to be other guys, too, that come out, and other decisions are going to be made. The ones that obviously keep an eye on the rest of the way through as these things slowly come out, because as Ant had pointed out earlier, right, for those of people who are just jumping into the stream, you're just joining us, Ant had talked about this. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are individually one by one going through every person who made this roster and congratulating them, letting them know that they're on the roster, on the team. So only the information, as they talk to guys, information will start getting released and leaked out, right? Or they'll start giving people permission to say, hey, yeah, this person's gone. Hey, yeah, this person's on the team, which will give some insight into where these guys are at. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So patience.
What we're getting is the agents and players themselves are telling sources, that they're cut. That's how you're getting the information early on. Somebody like the 49ers are doing a solid, telling like Clinton Dix and them early. That way they have the opportunity to try to, land somewhere else. You do that with your veterans. That's why some of those names are getting out there earlier, and some of the other guys are taking a little bit longer. So we're sitting here, we're anxiously waiting as well, because I want to keep breaking this down as these names come out, because there's still some good topics and good people that are going to get cut, need to get cut, unfortunately, and they still got to cut. According to my numbers, another 14 players still have to go that we haven't talked about yet, and that is with me already taking off Kafasi. Now, I could probably say 15 with River Craycraft. So we do have some numbers that still need to go. So they have some tough decisions. Alex Barrett, I think, is probably going to be one of those guys from the defensive line.
Which sucks.
Eddie Yarborough from the defensive line is probably going to be one of those guys. It appears they're going to try to keep 11, but we still haven't heard anything about Nate Sudfeld. We still haven't heard anything about, River Craycraft officially. And then there's the decisions along the offensive line, because we haven't heard about Sean Coleman. That could happen once we get to the whole IR designation, but that will have to happen as well.
Correct. I mean, there's the linebacker decision as well. Which linebackers are they keeping? Which guys are going to stick around? What direction are they going to take? Are they going to give a run to a young guy, right? In Hilliard, is Justin Hilliard going to be the option over Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles? Right? Are they not going to go that route? Because right now, I feel like with them letting go of Jonas Griffith, this kind of shores up that path for Marcel Harris. Marcel Harris is going to make this 53-man roster now at the linebacker spot. It's just a matter of who is that last guy. Is it going to be Justin Hilliard, or is it going to be Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles? Between those two guys, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles obviously has more system experience, right? You feel more comfortable playing him, because you know what he can do and what he can be. Also, the impact on special teams. For a guy like Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, this guy's a special team stud. He's a special team standout. Do you roll with that? Is that enough to make this roster? Or do you like the things that you've seen from Justin Hilliard flying all over the field and on tackles? Yes, he's making some mistakes and missing some tackles, but he's in the right spot. He's attacking. He's showing a lot of promise, and he can potentially come around to the special team stuff at some point.
By week 10 to 15, I'll say this. By week 10 to 15, Justin Hilliard would be a better linebacker than Flanagan-Fowles.
I agree with you on that.
The development is there. The athletic ability is there. The size is there. He's a lot bigger than Flanagan-Fowles. Flanagan-Fowles is a very good special teams player. On the kickoff team, he is very good. So this is going to come down to where their value is. When DeMeco Ryans looks at this linebacker group, if he thinks that Justin Hilliard is going to ultimately be better than Flanagan-Fowles, he's going to try to hold on to him. And Richie Hightower is going to have that argument. And they're going to have to basically Kyle's going to have to look at Richie Hightower and say, look, I need you to develop Hilliard into being the player that Flanagan-Fowles is on special teams. Well, that's what we talked about. It was going to take DeMeco Ryans standing on a table and saying, no, I can't let this guy go, because Flanagan-Fowles, they're going to stand on a table for him. That special teams room is going to do that because he's that good at special teams.
Accurate.
And Jonas Griffith was the next best linebacker at special teams besides Marcel Harris, and he's just got traded. So they did pave the way for Hilliard. Hilliard started in the last game, which makes you think he's got an opportunity to make this roster.
True.
But does the special teams get it done? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we watch special teams a little bit at practice, but to see it in the game, haven't got to see the all 22 where you can completely break down if he's keeping his path and doing all the things he's supposed to do.
It's too hard in the actual game footage, the sideline view, terrible to watch special teams and break it down, other than like gunners, right? Gunners, it's really easy because they're out there in space alone by themselves operating. It's really easy to tell if they're doing their job or being where they're supposed to be. There's an update, folks.
Justin Hilliard was released.
Yeah,
so likely going to the practice squad. They're going to try to do that.
Absolutely. So Hilliard most likely going to the practice squad now, which means this linebacker room we feel is pretty much set.
So
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if it's less than 4 guys. I don't think that would be the case at all. So it's going to be 5. It's going to be Dre Greenlaw. It's going to be Fred Warner. It's going to be Azeez Al-Shaair. It's going to be Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, and it's going to be Marcel Harris. Marcel Harris, I like that. I like that a lot because, like you talked about in our live stream in Project 53 as well, Marcel Harris, outside of the core 3 guys, is one of the best coverage guys in terms of understanding coverage concepts so far with this linebacking group.
Agreed. Oh, yeah, agreed. Kurt the Chameleon, no, there's not an official roster yet. These things are getting leaked out by the agents. They're releasing them to sources, whether those are Bay Area sources or there's also sources within the 49ers, I think, that are letting some of these out. But nothing is official yet. The 49ers are waiting to do that.
Justin Anobi just hit it. I was going to bring up this. Aaron Lynn had basically said, this is all, so the deadline's BS. The teams don't actually have to announce the 53 at the deadline anymore. They have to announce it to the league. So they have to send it into the league and let them know what their 53-man rosters is. So typically what happens is teams do this, and then teams, after they complete this, will release their rosters or start letting people know who made it, who didn't. The 49ers don't leak. That's not what happens here. So the 49ers have a process that they want to go through. They want to talk to each of these players individually. They want to let them know that they've made the team. They're probably also letting the players know who they cut, right? That they're cutting them individually on an individual basis. So they're taking a little bit longer. They're not releasing the names. Like I said, we just had one that was just released. They just let go of Justin Hilliard.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time. It's going to build a little
And I'm gonna put this out there because it's a little bit of conflicting reports. Earlier, a Bay Area sports writer, and I can't remember which one, reported that Elijah Sullivan had been released. Now David Lombardi is saying the final decision on which linebacker is going to be on the team comes down to Flanagan, Foles, and Elijah Sullivan. So I don't know if Lombardi just hasn't heard that Sullivan is cut, or if Sullivan hasn't been released yet. So let's make sure we put that out there, that we're getting like a little bit of conflicting reports, which has been normal. So we'll see what happens here. Maybe Lombardi's just mistaken on this, or maybe Sullivan hasn't been officially released yet.
Maybe he hasn't been officially released, or maybe the person who gave that information on Sullivan, Lombardi doesn't trust, right? And so that's why he's going with these two until he's waiting something further.
Yeah,
which is totally fair. But I would argue, right, that if Justin Hilliard is out, that there's a good chance here that we're going to see Elijah Sullivan here at some point in time as well.
Yeah, and there are some good players getting cut by other teams. There's going to be some options for the 49ers if they want to go that route. I think one thing that was interesting is Cornell Powell was cut by the Chiefs.
That is definitely an interesting one.
So he's out there. Daz Newsome also was cut.
Sure.
Those are some names that were out there. So there's going to be a lot of interesting names that come out. I don't know how many you got. Trufant getting cut by the Bears. That's a corner. Everyone's talking about the 49ers corner situation, which hasn't been addressed because we still have Harris and we still have Dante Johnson that are on this roster. And if they're keeping 6, one of them still has to go. If they're keeping 5, both of them have to go. Sure. But we haven't got to hear anything about that corner position as of now.
Correct. It's some interesting moves as well. I don't know if you saw what had happened with the Cowboys getting rid of both Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci there. Do you think they're in the market now for another quarterback behind Dak Prescott there?
I think that's why they got the whole Cam Newton buzz going on.
I saw that going on.
To be honest, no matter what they do, it's a dumpster fire. So
I agree with you.
I try not to pay attention to the Blue Star.
I agree with you there, indeed, 100%. Devontae Freeman was another name that was also cut by the Saints. They let him go as well. Has not been having a good camp.
He's done. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think he's reached the end of his, his ability in the NFL. He was good. He was great. He's got the vision still. The athletic ability is just faded.
The speed's gone too.
It's the same thing that happened to Todd Gurley. It's unfortunate. You're 27 years old and you're out of the league because you don't have the speed and ability.
This is why running backs. This is why running backs have been devalued, though, right? It's because of this thing where as soon as you start to lose a little bit of that step, that quickness, that edge, that takes you from being a guy who's not only competitive but sees the field, right, but can gash teams and make big plays and make big runs. The minute that you lose that thing, you kind of lose that part of your game that makes you a valuable asset, and you can go find a young guy who can do those things.
Okay, and this is just remember to make sure you read all the tweets, because now tweets are getting retweeted that Lombardi's saying Sullivan made the team. That's not what he's saying.
So you have people jumping all over.
It literally says when Flanagan Foles, they're going to keep 5. The final spot is down to Flanagan Foles and Elijah Sullivan. Flanagan Foles being the incumbent and favorite. That does not mean somebody else is going to make. So just make sure that we keep that straight.
Keep it straight. From James Vega, does Jake Brendel make the practice squad?
I think 100% they would love to put him on the practice squad. I mean, they did it with the guys last year. They had a center on there last year, Ronis Grasu, that was on their practice squad. I think they would love it, but I don't know if he's going to get there because he actually played very well in the preseason and came very close to making this roster. I bet he was one of those last guys that they thought they had to move. We'll see what happens. He's one of those guys that maybe they bring back if there's an IR situation, but I think they would love to have him on the practice squad.
It's true. From Luke here, do you guys think there's any bitterness with players because Hurd's here after one preseason game and makes it? I know they are happy for him, but sad for others who proven healthy, at least in ability to play.
Well, which ones are we talking about? Travis Benjamin, Simba Webster?
I'm assuming he's talking about the whole team as an entirety, as a whole. Look,
you know what? I'll tell you this: 100% players are going to be salty. That's what happens.
They're also allowed to be salty.
When any time that you were passed over for another player, you're upset. It wouldn't have mattered if Jalen Hurd played the entire time. They would have been upset. So yeah, they're going to be upset. There's some of them are going to be salty. Some are going to wish and think that they should have been the guy that made the team. And they have every right to believe that. Now they have to go out there and prove it though, because their play didn't show it on the field. None of those guys did anything to take his job. Think about this: Trent Sherfield came in as a fringe guy. Trent Sherfield.
This is a guy. Originally,
right
in our original pre-training camp roster, we did not have Trent Sherfield making this team, and talked about how difficult it was going to be, and we weren't going to count him out. But nothing that we had seen on tape led us to believe that this guy was going to make this roster.
And he went out there and he took a spot. If those guys don't want to be salty, go take the spot. None of them did enough to take the spot, in my opinion.
No, not at all. And Jalen Hurd came in and did what he needed to do, which was be healthy, show that he can get open in space, he can make catches, you can utilize him in the run game, all the things that you need to see out of Jalen Hurd, the dynamic ability, the threat, right? The ability to, if you don't have Debo on the field, or even if you have Debo Samuel on the field, you can also utilize Jalen Hurd in the same way. That's all Jalen Hurd needed to do, was be available.
Yeah, and to Luke, another thing that people got to remember is NFL players especially understand that injuries are a real thing.
Correct.
And to come back from a back injury like Jalen Hurd had, and then an ACL is no easy feat. Like, you have to actually want to play football to be able to get over those. Like that, to wake up every day and go do the rehab that you need to do to get your body back to where it needs to be, they will respect his grind. Yeah, it might appear that he's never healthy, but he's put in the effort to try to get healthy. So I think that they'll respect him for that, but some of them will still be salty because they want to be on this roster, 100%.
And they should be salty.
They'll be salty with Juwan Jennings as well. I mean, I think it's just a normal thing.
Well, and that's true. And look, I with Jalen Hurd stuff too, some of the injuries, it's one thing if you got a guy who is injured, who doesn't come into the practice facility, that's not doing the things that they need to do to get healthy and be healthy and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing. Jalen Hurd has not been a guy who gets injured and then has the same reoccurring injury happening over and over and over again. The first year, it's a freak back accident. The second year, everything is on track. Everything's on pace. Everything is going it's going swimmingly. Mm-hmm. And in a freaking working on route running, tears his ACL essentially against air. It's the worst thing that could possibly happen to a guy, and it's not his fault. It's not like Jalen Hurd did anything, and that's what's crazy to me. Some of the backlash that Jalen's gotten for being injured, it's almost like people think he's doing it like it's something that he has actually done. No, it's just your body in that point in time just not doing the things that it's supposed to do, and it leads to an injury. And that's what rehab is for, is to try and retrain and re-prep and get your body ready to handle the things that it needs to do at an elite level. That's why the rehab process is so important. You know, it's why Kyle Shanahan took some flack and this 49ers team took some flack for all the injuries in 2020. It was because of all of those things. And so they course corrected, right? They made the change. They did the things that they needed to do in order to course correct. And Megan there with the $5 super chat. We appreciate it. The Niners are going to kick some double dollar signs this year and some ace this year. I like it. James Vega, the newest channel member for the 49ers Cutback.
Awesome.
We appreciate that, man. Welcome to the Cutback Crew community.
Yeah, definitely welcome James Vega. He's been very avid in everything and really getting involved, and we appreciate it. So, Alex, let's kind of go over this, what we know so far. So, with the quarterback position, there are still three at this point.
Correct.
We know who those three are, Jimmy, Trey, and Sudfeld. Yep. And with the running back position, now they've completely narrowed that down. So, we've got a room that is void of Wayne Gallman, and it's JaMychal Hasty that's in. So, we got that going. The wide receiver room, it looks like it's down to Juwan Jennings and River Craycraft of who makes this team. I think we have an idea of where that's going.
I wonder.
The tight end room is completely secure now with Kittle, Dwelly, and Warner. That room is done and set. And the lineman room appears to be somewhat set. We haven't heard on Kafasi officially, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get cut. And we know Brindell's gone. We haven't heard if Sean Coleman is going to be on the IR. That is something that could come down the list. So we'll see what they decide there. So the offense looks like it's pretty much set besides those. And we don't have to, Alfredo Gutierrez doesn't have to be, nothing has to happen with him. He doesn't count against the roster.
That's correct. And that's thank goodness gracious. Luke with the $2 super chat as well. Hurd equals deep run in the playoffs with this wide receiver room. We agree with you there. We like that take. But there are people who don't like that take. Tywin Reed here in the chat. Jalen Hurd is a waste of a spot. We should have kept Benjamin. Our Project 53, we had them keeping Hurd and Benjamin. And that very well could be the case still. Shout out to the new subscriber, George Mendoza there. Welcome to the Cutback Crew, my guy.
Yeah, thanks, George. We appreciate it. Welcome. Join the conversation. It's fun.
Absolutely.
People, I want to say this because I'm a staunch supporter of Jalen Hurd. Don't think I don't understand where you're coming from as far as we were taken on a high of what we believe Jalen Hurd could be.
Correct.
And then he had the injuries, and so now everyone is completely disappointed and kind of disenchanted with Jalen Hurd. You want him on the field, so I understand the people that are saying he needs to produce, he needs to do something before I even keep this guy in mind. I understand where you're coming from. I am a coach, so I look at the way that I always look at potential. Yeah, part of that potential is you have to be on the field, but I don't know the medical, but they must feel very comfortable with the medical to have him on this roster, because if his medical wasn't good, they never would have took him off the PUP list. They would have done that so that way they could have kept him into the season and he wouldn't have hurt you against the numbers of the team.
You could have addressed it at that point in time if you didn't like it or you felt concerned.
6 games into the season.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's 100% accurate there. And look, I think the medical looks fine. I think the knee tendonitis was definitely a step back, right? It was concerning for Shanahan. But here's the thing. Hurd he's played through it. He's practiced through it. Half of the battle with stuff like knee tendonitis is just knowing what your limits are, when you need to take those breaks, and when you can push through. It looks like Kyle has given him that extra little nudge. And here's the good news. They're keeping Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd obviously not in the doghouse. If Jalen Hurd was in the doghouse, and they kept him, there'd be some issues here. If Jalen Hurd was in the doghouse, though, there was no way they were going to keep this guy. So the fact that this guy is being kept, that they feel comfortable with where he's at, and the fact that he was on the field means that Kyle Shanahan's ready to roll with this guy and let him slowly work his way back in. Don't expect Jalen Hurd to necessarily have a huge impact on this team early on. And if you're a fantasy person sitting here right now, well, then should I go get a guy like Jalen Hurd since you're so high on him? No. Wait. Just sit and wait, because Jalen Hurd is not going to be a guy who right away has the biggest impact in the world. He's going to be used sparingly at times in very specific situations early on as they slowly ease him back into playing shape, being able to play football at a high level. I expect this guy, by the time we get to the halfway point of the season, Jalen Hurd is going to start really, really, really making his impact on the league.
Yeah, I think where you see him make his impact is around the red zone area. And also when Debo needs to come off the field to get a break. Now you have a guy that can do the same things that Debo Samuel does. So those are areas where you can definitely count on it.
I appreciate it. And George, we appreciate that as well. Watch for a few minutes. Love the chat. Better than Grant Cohn all day long. We pride ourselves on being definitely the alternative to Thanos and Larry Hunter.
Yeah, thank you, Larry
for the
Hunter.
Subscription. We appreciate it. Simon L. Hey, guys. New to the show. Love your content. Quick question. Did you guys think Jalen Hurd looked slow compared to his Baylor days? What do you guys think his 40 time is now in 2021?
I don't think he looked slow. What I think is sometimes he looked like he was thinking. And we're gonna put out a little bit of a video about this at some point, is about some of the things that happened in that game, because there are big questions about it. The one thing I will say is he to the 100% speed that I think he's going to get to eventually as he works back? Maybe not. But we've seen him in practice as well, and he looks good getting in and out of breaks. He is able to get separation. He was able to win on one-on-ones, which I don't put a whole lot of weight into. But the thing is as long as he's open, I mean, look at the first play that Trey Lance tries to throw, and he has the incomplete pass. He's I think he's thinking between going for Sherfield and going for Hurd, and he gets caught in between. He's wide open. And so I think he's fast enough. I think he's faster than Jawan Jennings, but I don't think that he's as fast as he used to be. So I think he's kind of in that happy range. I think he's a high 4.5 guy, which I think is where he always was. But I think maybe a high 4.5, low 4.6 guy.
He's fast enough right now. Here's the thing. This is a year removed from an ACL injury. It's a full year. It's going to take some time still for him to get back to what he was fully. The NFL has changed, right? The NFL has changed. Medical has changed. How they go about diagnosing coming back from ACL injuries has changed, surgeries have changed, processes have changed.
Yeah.
This guy in another year could be completely back to his old self, and I won't blink an eye. But right now, he's back to being good enough to have a huge impact on this team. Because he was already, I thought he was already an elite talent, a guy that could be an elite talent in this league if he's healthy, if he develops the way he needs to. And a lot of the talk, right, coming out of that rookie camp with Hurd was that he was the best rookie on this roster. He could be rookie of the year potential, right? That's what the conversation was. And Kyle Shanahan was drooling over that potential. Back injury, we get to the next year. The ACL happens. Kyle Shanahan in the press conference, disgruntled. He's upset. He's not happy about it because it kiboshes everything that you were supposed to be doing. Seth Siddle-Milchill. Hello there, Seth. Hey, boy, how you doing, my Seth? Guy?
Yeah.
He's a Cutback Crew Channel member as well. We appreciate that, Seth. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I wonder if Seth is really happy with Jonas going to his Broncos.
That is a great question.
New
Seth,
subscriber here as well.
Let us know. I think it's Tua Maua. Maua?
Oh yeah. Hopefully we got this right.
If we got it wrong, let us know.
Let us know. We definitely want to get it right.
Give us the phonetic pronunciation. If they don't keep Trent at wide receiver, it's criminal. Trent Sherfield is 100% making this roster, Nick. You have nothing to worry about.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
This guy is safe. He's completely safe.
Okay, now what do you think about this? There is a little bit of a push. I've seen it a little bit on Twitter for the 49ers to cut Sudfeld and then get Cam Newton.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
He'll be third string.
Well, he's third string, and he's going to be eating up the vet minimum salary. That's a nice chunk of money that you're going to have to bring him in for. I get it. It's still the vet minimum. It's not a lot of money that you're going to have to. I'm aware, and there might be some creative ways that they can make it incentive laden. But what are you going to use him as? Your safety valve in case something happens with Trey, and then you can still run a 2-quarterback system? I don't understand why you would bring him in and why you would. What the point would be.
We have official cuts.
Oh, we have official cuts, folks.
We have official cuts.
It's official. Justin, we see it. We know.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, boys and girls.
The following players have been placed on injured reserve. We have Sean Coleman. He's on the injured reserve.
Okay.
So that happened. The following players have been released. Wide receiver Travis Benjamin. Offensive lineman Jake Brindell. Safety HaHa Clinton-Dix. Running back Wayne Gallman. Cornerback Dante Johnson. So Dante Johnson's gone.
Dante Johnson is now officially gone.
Offensive lineman Senio Calimente. Tight end Jordan Matthews. Michael Pruitt. Quarterback Nate Sudfeld, gone.
Woo, 2 quarterbacks it is, folks.
Defensive lineman Eddie Yarbrough. Okay, these following players have been waived. Defensive lineman Alex Barrett. Wide receiver River Craycraft. Defensive lineman Darion Daniels. Offensive lineman Alfredo Gutierrez. Linebacker Justin Hilliard. Fullback Josh Hockett. Offensive lineman Corbin Kafasi. Safety Jared Maiden. Here's one for everyone. Offensive lineman Colton McKivitz.
Was cut?
Was cut.
Oh, yep. My Lord Almighty. What in the world?
Cornerback Alexander Myers. Dakota Shepley, offensive lineman. Linebacker Elijah Sullivan, so he was cut. Wide receiver Simba Webster. And defensive lineman Jordan Willis is on the suspension list. So that is the news. Colton McKivitz.
So who did they keep?
Yeah, so Coleman's on the IR, so we know that happened.
Correct.
So they kept...
Holy cow.
Well, it could also be they had to do this to get through the 53, and then they're going to try to bring him back, right?
It's true.
Or they're going to bring back Brindell. So they've made the decision that they're going to make that move, and then they're going to bring someone back.
Johnny Ellis, thank you for the subscription. We really appreciate it. What in the world?
Yeah, so that was a definite surprise.
So Tom Compton made this roster?
Tom Compton made the roster, yes.
They kept Tom Compton over Colton McKivitz.
They kept him over Colton McKivitz. Now,
that's crazy.
Let's remember, if Maurice Hurst goes to IR after making the 53-man roster, they could bring back either Brindell or Colton McKivitz. But Colton McKivitz, a 5th-round pick, we all thought he was high. They were high on him. Is now off this roster.
I can't believe that, because this is the thought process with Colton McKivitz was that Colton McKivitz, the reason why he's probably safe is he's so diverse. You can play him at guard. You can play him at tackle. He's been everywhere.
That might be the key. It might be Tom Compton playing right tackle during the preseason got him on this roster, because he did a very, very serviceable job.
Yeah, he did.
And they moved, after that happened, remember, they moved McKivitz into guard, and it kind of changed everything. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, folks, that's what it's looking like right now.
Hasty made the cut.
Hasty 100% made the cut. But this is what I mean. If this is what's going on, right? Colt McKivitz is the guy that's gone. Then that eighth lineman is Tom Compton. Based on everything else that we've seen, right? It's the only name that hasn't been stated out there. Tom Compton makes this roster. Colton McKivitz is now out there and available. But like you said, Ant, let's not forget this. That also means that Kevin Givens made the roster.
Kevin Givens made the roster.
They did. They did, in fact, keep 11 defensive linemen. This is something we toyed about in Project 53. Is it going to be 10? We kept 10 and cut Givens because we thought they were going to keep 9 offensive linemen. They keep 8. Givens is now
we didn't
available.
know about Coleman's injury.
Also didn't know about Coleman's injury at the time. That probably would have kept... Well, yeah, that could have kept it, but it still wouldn't have mattered because they still make this move anyway, this corresponding move with Colton McKivitz being gone. So this is a little out there. I'm shocked by it, dude.
I didn't see anyone predicting that it was going to be Colton McKivitz.
No.
So I do not know what is up with that, but I do know this, is that there are still decisions to be made because they're going to be building this practice squad, and they're going to also probably put Maurice Hurst on the IR once this, now that it's official. They can put him on the IR and they can put him on the short-term IR and he can come back in 3 weeks. So one of these guys is going to be re-added to the team. Alex, who do you think is going to be re-added to the team for all the guys that have been cut? Is there any guys that stand out? You got a Travis Benjamin, you got a Jake Brindell, you've got also now, Colton McKivitz. Do any of these guys stand out as possibles to come back once Maurice Hurst ends up on the short-term IR?
This is tough, man, because this was my whole thought process was Maurice Hurst goes on short-term IR, right? And then we're going to definitely try and bring back in Travis Benjamin. That was my thought process. You only have 8 linemen right now. Having that additional lineman early on in the season, I feel that's very, very important.
But remember, with the new rules, you can have them on the practice squad, and you can have them a part of that 55
man. Yeah, that's true. You can bring them up. So maybe the goal is, and the idea is, they think they can get Colton McKivitz down there to the practice squad and keep him around. That would be fine. That's A-okay. So then, if that's the case, you're going to get Brendel. I think their goal is to try and get Brendel and McKivitz back to the practice squad, and then you use one of them to come up, obviously, as that filler piece on the 55-man roster.
Because you can have an extra man active. You can have a 47th man now, because as long as it's an offensive lineman.
Correct. You get that additional offensive lineman. Yeah. I feel this is the only thing that makes... I feel it's Travis Benjamin. I feel like that's the only logical thing, is that you're going to try and bring this guy back if you can.
You know what I was just thinking? Did we say Harris? What happened to Harris? Did he make the roster?
The cornerback back. I thought you brought up and mentioned the cornerback. Go ahead and go back through that list and take a look at it. I thought you had mentioned Harris.
I do not see Harris on here. So if I missed it for some reason, did they cut him another time? I do not see him on this list. So did they cut him before this week, or...
I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to double check.
Because I don't see him on here, which would mean he beat out Dante Johnson for a roster spot.
Is Dante Johnson on that list?
Dante Johnson's been cut.
Holy cow.
That's what even Lou is saying. Dante Johnson could be back.
That's another name as well. Absolutely.
He's another guy that could go on the practice squad for sure, too. Because he's been on the 49ers practice squad before. So
Harris made it. Wow, that is surprising.
Yeah, I didn't hear nothing about Harris, so maybe there's just a miss here.
That could very well just be a mistype. Someone may have just put in the wrong name. So we'll wait for official full confirmation on that. But
I'm looking over the names and I'm seeing the people that.
Who is that list from?
David Lombardi.
It's from Lombardi.
This is official from the 49ers. So
okay,
this is from the 49ers.
Oh boy,
the Niners put out the list. He put it out there, and I grabbed it. So. That is what we're looking at right here. I don't know. I didn't notice it when we were first going through, but that is a name that I haven't seen. So they might have chose him over Dante Johnson, which... That
would be absolutely surprising to me.
I didn't see that coming.
JLA, the linebackers are going to be Fred Warner. It's going to be Dre Greenlaw. It's going to be Aziz Al-Shair. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's going to be Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Marcel Harris. Those are the 5 linebackers.
Yeah, I think we should go position by position now and just go over who's on this roster.
Absolutely. Let's hit it.
Quarterback, it's Jimmy Garoppolo's Trey Lance. So they did do what we thought. They're probably going to try to get Sudfeld to the practice squad.
The Shanna plan is in full effect, folks. We've been saying this for months now. Yeah. It was going to be 2 quarterbacks. It was going to be these 2 and both of them in the game. I love it. Let's see what else has got.
Running back position, we know we got Mostert, Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, and JaMychal Hasty. Wayne Gallman was waived. And then you've got, of course, Juice at fullback. Right. So those ones are done. Hilliard did get cut, JLE. maybe a practice squad, him or Elijah Sullivan, maybe both. We'll see what happens there. As far as wide receiver, the 6 wide receivers, you got Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Trent Sherfield, Mohamed Sanu did make this roster, Jalen Hurd, Jawan Jennings. River Craycraft was released. He was the last release that we saw. So those that's how that works. Go ahead and go with the tight end room, Alex.
The tight ends after that are going to be George Kittle, obviously. It's going to be Ross Dwelley, and it's going to be Charlie Warner. Those are the 3. This is what we've been saying for some time now. It's going to be those 3 tight ends. Charlie Warner definitely showed it in preseason, in training camp, all the way through. He deserves that last little roster spot there.
Yeah, and then we got the offensive line. You got the starters, Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack. I'm going blank.
Daniel Brunskill. The Aaron Donald stopper?
He just stops him so well, I can't remember him.
It's so impressive.
And Mike McGlinchey. And then the backups, you've got Banks, Jalen Moore, the 2 rookies, and you've got Tom Compton.
Which is stunned. Still, I can't wrap my head around it, man. I am absolutely stunned by this.
That is interesting. And then the defensive line, I think we should double team this because this is one heck of a line. But you got, of course, the normal ones. You got Bosa, you got Armstead, you got Ford, you got Ebucom, you've got Kinlaw, you've got DJ Jones, you got Zach Kerr, you've got
Maurice Hurst,
Arden Key,
Kevin Givens,
Contavious Street, and of course you've got Willis on the suspended list.
He's on that exemption list, just sitting there waiting to come back. Simon L. No.
Yeah.
Gallman did not make the cut. Gabriel Clark, we love Jordan Matthews as well, did not make the cut.
Look for them on the practice squad.
Absolutely.
Yes, Marcel Harris is on the roster. Marcel Harris is
Crypto Knight, yeah, Juice as well. Juice made the running back room.
Yeah, 100% Juice made it. And then when we went over the linebackers. Now the DBs, the corners, you've got the 2 rookies, Ambry Thomas, Diamond Lenore, of course, Jason Verrett, and Emmanuel Mosley.
Correct.
Those ones were the ones that we knew were dead set going to make this team. Then you got K'Wan Williams, of course, dead set to make it as a nickel. I put him in a category all by himself.
He gets his own separate. We don't lump him in with the corners. He's a nickel. He's our nickel guy. That's what he is.
The shock is Harris.
What did we miss something? I mean, what did he do something? Because the practices we were at a practice that he was on the roster. I didn't see anything there that I absolutely loved.
And he didn't do a whole lot in this preseason game, which means him and Dante Johnson, they didn't want to show. So this is really interesting.
So the question becomes: is Dante Johnson the guy that they're going to try and bring back after they put a guy like Hurst on IR? Maybe,
but do you need that many more? You need that many corners now, DBs? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But man, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Devontae Harris being on this roster, not Dante Johnson, after the things that we saw in camp early on, and what he did pretty much every practice. That is nuts. I'm stunned. I'm stunned. Simon L. Can't believe they cut Jared Maiden. That was my potential sleeper starter.
We like Jared Maiden. I mean, last year, going all the way through the draft process, I thought that he was somebody that could get drafted. Then they signed him as an undrafted free agent. There is some development that needs to happen there. I thought they would ultimately try to trade him if they couldn't keep him on the roster, but maybe they're going to try to sneak him. They did not play him in this last preseason game pretty much. He played special teams, and that was pretty much it. My guess is sneak him through, get him to the practice squad, because there's a lot of times that other teams don't value our players as much as we value our players. So we could probably keep him. The problem is you got people like Arizona who just put Malcolm Butler on the reserve retired list. So they're going to be looking for players. And you have a guy like Jared Maiden that has a skill set where he can play in the slot. He can play safety. It makes for some interesting things going on. I hope we don't get poached. I really do.
I don't. And Simon just brought that up. Could he end up on the Seahawks as well? I mean, Seattle is notorious for going after some of our secondary guys as well and keeping an eye on them. So that very well could be the case. I think the Niners are being very specific about some of their guys. And yes, Gary, Tavon Wilson did make this roster. That is accurate indeed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with Jared Maiden. In that regard, in that respect. But we just left off right with the cornerbacks. We just talked about them. The safeties room is obviously going to be right. Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward are your starters, especially if Jaquiski Tartt is healthy. Then you have one of the biggest surprises of camp in terms of how quickly he's developed in Talanoa Hufanga.
Oh, man, he's good.
He's going to be a problem there at 3. And then you got Tavon Wilson sitting there, who is a jack of all trades, can really fill any position secondary-wise in the safety room that you really need him to do. He can do it all. He's shown it. He can play both spots. He can play them at a high level, which is great. There's a lot of depth. And don't forget also that you have Tony Jefferson sitting there on that IR list. And it's not the IR list that's going to be waived to be cut. He was put on IR a while back. This is not a guy that they're trying to reach an injury settlement with and let him walk away. This is a guy who they're going to keep around and who knows, potentially even bring back onto this roster if something were to happen.
Yeah, and you know what? There is a very interesting response. A lot of people are freaking out about Tom Compton.
They are.
I think it was surprising to me, but I will say this. It means that he got outplayed in training camp. You don't just cut somebody that is a 5th-round pick that you were high on, that you thought you had a 3rd-round grade on the year before, unless you believe he got completely outplayed. So he's not developed at the level that he needs to. Last year, there was a different offensive line coach. This time, Forster's basically saying, you know what? You don't make the cut, kid. I think that them signaling and cutting him, maybe they can get him to the practice squad.
Maybe.
I think we haven't seen the end of him, and he might ultimately bounce back. But what is also that safe for Jalen Moore? Jalen Moore they're both 5th-round picks, and Jalen Moore must have came out and completely outplayed him. And now we know why they talked about Jalen Moore going to play guard, because they were thinking about cutting Colton McKivitz.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yep. And look, there was a couple really good questions here, and I want to get to them. Ellis, where is it at here? Johnny Ellis asks, how many practice players are allowed on the practice squad? It is 16. 16. Yeah. And here's the deal. So, tomorrow is Wednesday, September 1st. All right, NFL clubs can start claiming players who are waived by other teams up until 1 p.m. starting on Wednesday. So they have until 1 p.m. to start claiming guys. Yep. After that, they have to start establishing their practice squad, which is 16 guys total. Only up to a max of 4 of those players can have played or have earned or accrued more than 2 seasons. Up to 6 can be veterans that have an unlimited number of accrued pro seasons. And then they have, 4 guys that they're able to protect each and every week? So 4 guys that they can protect each and every week. So don't be surprised. Sullivan and Hilliard, both of them could end up on the practice squad. A guy like Jake Brendel could end up on the practice squad. There's a lot of names, and there's players being cut by other teams as well that are going to be available that the Niners are going to be happy to take a good hard look at. Yeah,
and I think you have to take a good hard look in case somebody's better for your 53-man roster as well.
Ernest Bailey, can we get Troy Warner? The Rams cut him. That's definitely a name that they'll be looking at.
We could. The question is, do you value Troy Warner over Jared Maiden? You're not going to keep too many safeties on your, on your practice squad. So is Troy Warner better than Jared Maiden? The 49ers didn't sign him as an undrafted free agent. They did sign Jared Maiden the year before. It's interesting. I think this, because it's Fred's brother, I think fans, we want to go ahead and bring him on. But ultimately, I don't think he's better than Jared Maiden. So I don't think I would bring him on. But he still might. I mean, you have 16 spots. You have to use them wisely. You have to use those guys because you know that they might have to contribute to your team at some point. So it'll be very strategic. It's curious to see what they do with this practice squad.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting what happens with this. This is the definition of hard choices. Other teams say the hard decisions is a good problem. They want to beat us so bad. You'll get it if you know who said that. Lol, Jake, we got you.
Yeah, 100%.
We got you.
100% agree. Hard choices is what it's about.
100%. You want the hard choices. Yeah, the hard decisions means that you have a deep, not only deep roster, but basically a room full of guys who can all contribute and have a huge impact on your success on and off the field. You want hard choices. Hard choices make the team better. It makes the culture better. It makes the environment better. That's what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and this entire front office have done with this team. They've put together one of the most incredible 90-man rosters that I've witnessed and dived into in my lifetime, and made some really, really tough calls and a couple of surprisers. And you and I both felt we had this thing pretty pegged with the exception of a few positions.
Yeah.
They threw a curveball with that O-line.
They did. I think the fact they went 8 was the first surprising move, but I did not see the Colton McKivitz thing coming. There was nothing that illustrated that Tom Compton was going to beat out Colton McKivitz for this job. I just assumed that Colton McKivitz was, from what we had saw, especially early on, Tom Compton got completely dominated at the open practice when he was playing left guard.
Yeah.
I will say the move to right tackle did do him a lot of favors. He did play a lot better, but I didn't think Colton McKivitz played bad enough to get cut from this team where you thought his upside wasn't higher than what Tom Compton's was. I think his upside still is better. There might be some sort of plan or goal here where they think it was that Colton McKivitz had a better chance of getting to the practice squad than Tom Compton.
It might be that. Lombardi said that Harris started showing out during the Chargers practice. So if that's what it was, then that's what it was. They liked what they saw there, and they were like, you know what? We're just going to keep this very secretive. We're going to hold on to this guy and stash him away. And Dante Johnson, we're just going to not do anything with and hope we can stash him in the practice squad.
Well, it makes sense, too, right, with Harris, because you got B.W. Webb is there, and then B.W. Webb is gone as soon as Harris comes. So Harris definitely showed him something. They must have been very high on what he can do in this system and for this team. It was a little surprising that he made it over Dante because I thought Dante had a bang-up training camp, too. But once again, it could be that the 49ers figured that Harris would get claimed, Dante wouldn't, and they were willing to take that chance.
Agreed. Johnny Ellis, we appreciate the $2 super chat there. Thank you so much. Also, I haven't plugged it yet. We haven't plugged anything. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, hit that notification bell as well. That way you know as soon as we go lives, you're here, you're ready to go, you're not confused, you're in on all the information that's coming out here on the 49ers Cutback. Also, tons of ways for you to interact with the community. Discord, you'll see it in the description down below. You can join us on Patreon as well for videos there. We got additional extended content there as well. You won't want to miss any of that. But let's get back to this. Wait, Harris get cut or no from Steven? No. Harris made this roster. Dante Johnson was the cut. He is gone. Gregory Pierce, would possibly make the practice squad? You and I both feel like he's probably going to end up on a 53 somewhere.
Yeah, I would be surprised if another team doesn't pick him up. I thought he definitely proved that he's able to still play in the NFL. He just wasn't quite good enough. Maybe he didn't have enough time, a full training camp to play for the 49ers. I think Tavon Wilson also just played at a high level. But I think there is potential for him to land somewhere else. If he doesn't land anywhere else, I think the 49ers would be very open to having HaHa around because he played well in the system. And I think just more time he'll develop. And we know that the 49ers often have injuries at the safety position. So having depth on the practice squad is important. And having somebody with the seasoning of HaHa Clinton-Dix there is very important because he can give you a lot of good looks and do a lot of big-time things for your practice squad against your first team. So he's definitely somebody that they would be interested in. I just don't know if he's going to be available.
Correct. And I'm trying to roll through some of the other stuff that we got here. Kavefe Coffee. The Cutback shirt is nice. You can go find all of our great merch there at 49erscutbackshop.com as well. So make sure you check that out because the one Ant's got on, that TCC NWO Wolfpack inspired shirt, that's a clean one. But we got tons of great shirts over there and even more coming your way.
Yeah, more coming in the next week or so.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm trying to roll through some of these other teams, especially in our own division, our own conference, to kind of see other names potentially that are out there of guys that could be cut, but not every NFL hasn't updated every single one. No,
it's going to take some time for all of it to get out there.
Correct. So I'm just rolling through. I'm trying to see if there's any interesting
names.
And
while you're doing that, I'm going to Ernest asked about, do we agree with the Pruitt cut?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We didn't think Pruitt was going to make the team. I don't think it helped him starting out injured and not getting those reps early on, but it was always going to come down to how much had Charlie Warner developed. If Charlie Warner developed in the pass game and then cleaned up the blocking issues he had from last year, he was going to make this roster. They weren't going to give up on the draft pick. Mycole Pruitt was brought in to compete with him as that blocking tight end who had limited receiving ability. And Warner proved to have more receiving ability than he had last year, and his blocking got cleaned up a lot. So it became apparent early on that it was basically going to be those three guys, and that Jordan Matthews and Mycole Pruitt were not only practicing to put some good film out there, but one of them will probably end up on the practice squad. I think it'll be Jordan Matthews.
Correct. There were some people who were shocked by it. I don't know why. This was one that we thought was going to be a push. It was always Pruitt had a chance to push for this job and get into it. We both thought that Warner had the heads up going in because, draft capital. You drafted this guy. You developed this guy. Right. The whole talk last year was this guy was trying to mold his game after George Kittle. Right? He was mini-me out there trying to be a little George Kittle. He definitely earned it and proved he earned some stripes this offseason in this training camp. There was the reports coming out, right, in OTAs that this guy was struggling, remembering routes and things of that nature.
That was when it got scary.
That was scary, but I wonder now how much of that may have been a little overblown and overstated, and they were really just trying to give this guy a kick in the butt because they thought this guy could get there, but he needed to definitely turn it around in that short amount of time between OTAs and training camp.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely needed to happen. I don't think I think shock-wise, it's not there, right? We weren't shocked by that. I think the ones that kind of, they weren't shocking, but they were moves that kind of caught us off guard was Colton McKivitz, only because they gave up on a 5th-round pick. Thank you to the new subscriber.
I think it's Laren Edwards. I'm going to say Laren Edwards. If it's Lauren Edwards, I apologize, but Laren Edwards,
very nice.
Appreciate that.
Very, very nice. I think we always thought that was, a possibility. I think the big news also, we didn't go over this, but 100% Robbie Gould, Mitch Wisnowski, and Tabor Pepper made the roster.
All made the roster.
We forgot about them, so.
Fionn Mattal signed Trace McSorley. And I heard he throws it on a dime.
He's one of your guys.
Yeah, he throws it on a dime.
Put it on a dime. He ain't even trying.
He's just a kid from Briarsworth. He was wearing number 9 at Penn State, but now he's wearing something else.
Yeah. if Trace McSorley's available, sign him to the practice squad today. That way we can play the song.
Absolutely.
That would be exciting.
Yeah, I heard he was down in Vandy and then flipped to Happy Valley also.
Yes, Alex has not listened to that song ever.
Nope, never heard it, not once.
He introduced it to me for
Matty Beats, right? Matty B Raps. That was a good one. That was one of his best one. Bosa time to eat against the Lions. Agreed. This D line group, man. This was already a tough call. The fact that they kept all 11 guys, holy cow! John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were not joking, right? When John Lynch came out and said, people have been calling about members of this D line. We are not trading anyone from this D line. They literally meant it.
Yeah, they were not kidding.
They literally meant it. They kept all 11 guys. How upset is the rest of the NFC West and the rest of the team in the NFL? The Niners aren't dealing any of these people.
I think they're very mad.
I would be
now they're all trying to go get him, right? I think they're all trying to go get him.
Mr. Matal, we appreciate the subscribe. Thank you so much, my guy. Thank you.
He's also, I think he enjoys
Poetry with Reason. What about Richie James? Also, another new subscriber right after that. Oh my goodness gracious, Mr. C.
I like the name.
Mr. C.
Yeah, I like that. That's
I like that a lot. That's nice.
What about Richie James? Richie James was waived last week.
Correct.
I don't know. Do you know if they put an injury designation on him? Injury IR.
I
think they were going to.
I think they were going to, but I thought they reached a settlement.
Okay, did they already reach a settlement?
I thought they reached a settlement.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
That was the whole point. You put him on the IR, and then you try to reach a settlement where he can get released and go somewhere else, and that way you don't have to pay his full salary. So it looked like that's what they were doing. That's what they've been working out. They did it with some other guys as well, throughout camp. Going ahead and moving on for some of these other guys on the roster that got hurt.
Agreed. Simon, I don't think that they're going to. I don't think he's going to get claimed by someone else. I think Jordan Matthews. I don't think he's going to get claimed by somebody else. I think the Niners are going to be able to stash him on the practice squad.
Yeah.
The only team I worry about right now is Minnesota maybe thinking something there because Seattle as well.
Minnesota traded for a tight end today.
They did trade for a tight end.
They traded for Herndon.
That's right.
But you do have Seattle had what's his name retire the tight end they brought in for like 1 day.
Yes,
Luke or something or other.
I forget who it was.
Yeah,
I forget who it was. It wasn't obviously important.
No, not to me. It wasn't.
It wasn't important. Not at all.
Yeah.
Look, there's still so many names and possibilities with this roster and what they're going to do going forward. I've been hearing things about Equanimeous St. Brown from the Green Bay Packers because he was cut today. They released him as well, and people are like, well, this is a guy who, Aaron Rodgers liked a lot. Maybe we bring him in over here. The only problem I see is that you had a guy right in Austin Watkins who had a fantastic camp. You're going to try and want to get that guy in the practice squad if you can. Yeah,
he's another guy they reached a settlement with.
It's true.
But with St. Brown, you've got Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically, that's the same guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like Juwan Jennings' grit. To me, St. Brown is a little bit, afraid to go over the middle compared to Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings has got some dog, some toughness. I like that about him.
Accurate.
So I don't see that move. I don't think that's a clear move to make. I honestly don't think they're going to make any moves in the wide receiver room. I think they're set. I think Kyle likes the 6 that he's got.
And so of the wide receivers they cut, Travis Benjamin, right, Simba Webster, and River Craycraft, which is the guy that makes the practice squad?
I think they would love for it to be Travis Benjamin. I mean, he's the most dynamic guy of the 3. You always want the best player to make the practice squad.
Accurate.
Just will he be available? You know what I mean? Will he not go land somewhere else? I think there's going to be teams that are going to be interested in him. I don't know how many. I don't think it's going to be like a lot of teams, maybe a handful. Mm-hmm. And he can kind of play that out in his mind, right? Do you want to move your family or do you want to stay here? There's big decisions that way.
Interesting running back cut from the Eagles, Jordan Howard.
That is interesting, but I think he's getting long in the tooth.
He's definitely getting long in the tooth, and I watched a little bit of the Eagles stuff, obviously in my fantasy football prep, and I loved what I saw there out of Kenny Gainwell in their system. They obviously felt the same way because he made that active roster over there, and a guy like Jordan Howard, who's more their big physical bruising guy, got cut. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, once again, nothing that happens in a running back room is going to influence the 49ers running back room.
Accurate.
Their running back room is completely set. It's completely legit. They're not going anywhere.
Agreed. Look, Trickster, I think Hockett is pretty safe. Here's the good news about fullbacks in the league. Not a lot of teams are using them still.
No.
So if you have a guy in your training camp other than your starting fullback, if you got a couple guys in there, usually you're pretty safe.
Yeah, the fullback options for the Raiders fullback and New England usually employs a fullback. Other than that, not very many fullbacks. It's usually a tight end that has to fill those roles when it's called upon. So that's the good thing is if you have fullbacks, you can use them for sure.
Agreed. You definitely can. And we apologize, Chad, if we're missing some of these. A lot of the chat's active right now. It's lit.
Yeah, it is.
The Cutback Crew is lit. We really, really appreciate that.
And keep throwing out the questions. I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely. And Johnny Ellis is not inaccurate there either. Make sure that you hit that like button. And you know what? If you feel like it, become a channel member. You get early access to stuff. We got member-only live streams coming up as well. So all of our channel members, you'll get a special live stream with us where you get to interact and do things with us and have some fun conversations. It's a lot of fun. Plus, you get cool badges next to your name, and you get accurate and tutty emojis. You don't want to miss out on those, because when the Niners score tutties, you want to show it off to everybody. You can show off your tutties to the Cutback Crew. It's a lot of
fun. I'm sorry. Every time you say badges, all I can think of is we don't need no stinking badges.
We don't need no stinking badges.
That's all I think about every single time.
Sherfield, the best wide receiver from Covfefe Coffee. I'll tell you what, he had one of the best camps of the wide receiver room.
I'm not ready to put him over Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel.
Absolutely not.
But he has definitely situated himself right behind them. I mean, he's been playing absolutely fantastic. He's done a great job, showed great hands, and showed the ability to get behind defenders a lot better than we thought from watching the Arizona film. Let's just say this, Cliff Kingsbury had no idea what to do with this guy, and his development, and Kyle Shanahan and the way that they use Trent Sherfield has been fantastic. He's definitely going to fill in for Kendrick Bourne in a even better way than Kendrick Bourne was. And he's got a lot of attitude and aggression to him, too. We saw that when he would get in the face of a cornerback, even at practice. If they're talking trash, because Craycraft likes to start trash talk, this guy will let him know what's up, and Sherfield's a beast.
Correct. KNDR Collectibles, Caleb out here. Who do we acknowledge since our tribal chief, Nate Sudfeld, was cut? This is going to be difficult. You know, we did have a tribal chief shirt waiting in the wings in case Nate Sudfeld made this 53-man roster. Unfortunately, the tribal chief is now gone, and we cannot no longer acknowledge, right? You can't acknowledge Nate Sudfeld. So this will be interesting. Who needs to be acknowledged? Yeah. Who's the next guy on this roster to be acknowledged?
It's going to take some thought. Now, I will say, Coach Timo, the 49ers put it out on their website. So if you want the official list, just go to the49ers.com. You can get the list there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Indeed. T.O. I hope that's actually T.O. Bourne was money on 3rd and long. He was money on 3rd and long.
It just wasn't money on 1st and 2nd.
Or 3rd and short. Or just anything that wasn't.
If it was 1st and 10, it was probably getting dropped.
It was 100. No, probably it was 100% getting dropped.
But if it's 3rd and 16, he's making that catch.
If it's 3rd and goal from the 15, or 3rd and goal from the 10, or 3rd and goal from the 15, he was going to make a touchdown.
And you were going to get a wicked dance afterwards.
Oh, stupid dancing. Gosh darn it! I hope I do hope he has a lot of success over there in New England.
Yeah,
but. My goodness gracious.
I'm cheering for the guy. I'm cheering for him.
Acknowledge Tom Compton, darn it. You know what? Maybe that's who it is, Ant.
Tom Compton.
Acknowledge him.
He's the head of the table, huh?
I don't know about that. He's at the table. Hey, he's at the table.
There was a question above. I thought I seen a question above. I was gonna.
Here, let me go. Let me scroll through the chat here and try.
It's hard for me to keep track of it. To be honest,
I'm trying to find. There's Coach Timo's official list.
Right above that, a couple of spots up. I think.
Who do we acknowledge since we were cut? No, it wasn't that. No more Sudfeld. Any chance Cam Newton would sign with the Niners when Jimmy G is gone, whenever that will be?
I don't think so.
No, because I don't believe Jimmy G's gone. Jimmy G is going to be a quarterback on this roster, and we had this debate this morning on Face Off, so if you missed that, go check that out after this as well. Jimmy G, it doesn't make any sense to part ways with Jimmy G because what you're going to get value-wise is about what you can get in the off-season for Jimmy G.
I did see where it was. It's Judo Dono.
Okay.
Glad they kept the D-line, but what about losing Yarbrough? Does that hurt? Maybe just being greedy.
Listen, I like
that. Was why I saw Yarbrough in it, so I wanted to talk about it.
We both liked Eddie Yarbrough, and Eddie Yarbrough got off to a very hot start when he got to San Francisco. That first practice was at Levi Stadium, the one that we were at. That was his first one.
Right.
And he had himself a day that day, and Ant and I both were like, yo, what is happening here? What is this? Who is this guy? What is he doing? This guy wants this roster spot. The problem is the minute you got into game situations and actual preseason games, it didn't translate.
No.
It did not. It wasn't until that third preseason game where you started to see little flashes of it, and even then, it was late in the game against the Raiders threes, who have been going now for a long time. It's an unfortunate situation because he got off to a very hot start very early in camp, and then he cooled off a little bit in camp, but he was still producing and performing and applying pressure, tipping passes at the line, but it didn't translate into gameplay. And if you're seeing it on the field, right, already, if you're seeing it in practice, you want to see it in the game, especially with this D-line group, because a lot of the 11 guys that they have right now have all put it on tape.
Yeah.
You've seen it on tape in an actual game. So even if it's not necessarily happening in practice right away, you know what they can do on game. You've already seen it on game film. Eddie Yarbrough is a guy who you haven't seen a lot of game film on. He's out here dominating in practice, which is great. It needs to translate to the field if he wants to push for a roster spot. It didn't happen. No serious injuries to the D-line. Eddie Yarbrough, unfortunately, has to go.
I think it's just being greedy, unfortunately, if we wanted to keep him. Because, I wanted to keep all these guys because they were all that good, and they were very impressive. But I think a lot of this goes to Chris Kasarik. I really do. I think some of these guys outperform even what people their expectations because of how good Chris Kasarik is at teaching, the techniques they need for this wide nine system and getting these guys in opportunities where they get one-on-ones. And Yarbrough was benefiting from getting these one-on-ones with offensive tackles, especially the backup tackles. He was taking advantage of them and he looked good. But yeah, he wasn't quite good enough to make the roster, especially with Jordan Willis is coming back at some point. The fact you have Arden Key, you have Armstead, Bosa, Ford, Ebucom, and Willis coming off, there's just no way he can make the roster.
It was just going to be hard. Michael Thomas, who would you guys like to see the team add?
I think the most interesting from the cuts that I've seen from around is Trufant, because you have the questions at corner. They kept Harris. I think Trufant is a better player. The question is, where's Trufant's mind at? The reason that he got cut is he hasn't been in camp since August 15th because of the passing of his father, unfortunately. Yep. And he's, went home to be with them, and that's completely understandable. But you wonder where his mindset is. I know they said he wants to continue to play football. He's owed about $3.8 million from the Lions, so he's one of those guys you could probably bring in for a league minimum. You could convince him. But do you really want to pay a guy that much money to be, a backup corner on your roster? Well, there is still a question because I think Trufant could be a nice replacement. That way you wouldn't have to count on a rookie if, JV or Mosley went down. Then you would have a guy to step right in that you could feel comfortable playing because I do think he's an improvement over Harris, Ambry Thomas, and Dante Johnson.
Correct. That's fair. That's definitely a name. I think that's really the only one right now that I've seen that I'm highly interested in. I saw on my Twitter feed a couple people were like, "Oh, Prince Amukamara is available." Prince Amukamara hasn't really done a whole lot of good things in this league.
I haven't been a fan since he came out.
No, since he was drafted, he really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. That's just a name that people know because he was a high draft pick and was supposed to be a guy that showed up the secondary originally for the Giants and then ended up flipping over to the Saints and just really hasn't had a lot of success.
Yeah, definitely. I think right now it's Trufant. We'll see who else. The only other one that was, I guess, enticing to me because I liked him coming out of the draft is Cornell Powell. But I don't know if we need him because of the players that we have. To me, he's kind of a Jawan Jennings-ish player. So it might be redundant, but he would be someone I would be interested in if we had some sort of an injury to like a Jawan Jennings. So you could add Cornell Powell to play that position.
Agreed. Zach Kerr is going to be a phenomenal player for the 49ers. No worry there, Demon Hunter. We got you. Zach Kerr is going to be phenomenal. Ernest Bailey asks, Travis Fulgham, ? Travis Fulgham. It's an interesting name, but at the end of the day, there's not really a lot of things that need to be addressed with this wide receiver room right now. You're definitely going to try and keep one of the guys that you cut and develop them on the practice squad. I don't know how many more. Maybe a couple. If you can get both Simba Webster and you could get Travis Benjamin down there, that would be A-okay with me. Travis Fulgham has some potential, but I don't know how he fits in the system.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. And we'll see what happens once the IRs come down and the 49ers make those roster moves.
It's true.
Because then they'll be able to maybe add some of their guys back. Some of these guys had to be on the 53-man roster to get them to a short-term IR, and if they weren't, then they were eligible to be picked up by somebody else or unusable for the 49ers all season. So they just had to make a move.
Correct. They were just going to need to. Someone had asked this earlier, and we missed it earlier. I saw it come through. Someone was asking if Elijah Mitchell, we could see him being used in both the punt and kick return game. Potentially. Definitely has the potential to be a guy who could kick return for the 49ers this season. They got him in there in this last preseason game. He had a good return. He looks solid on special teams overall in general. That's definitely not something, though, I think they're going to throw him into right away. It's something they're going to kind of toy around with and slowly get him reps. I don't know if they'll have a traditional standard, go-to kick returner. I think they're going to rotate some guys, and the same thing on the punt team.
I think kick return is going to be Elijah Mitchell. I think
so.
I think he'll be the full guy, and I think Ambry Thomas will be the backup. Okay. Michael Hasty maybe spins sometimes. But I think they signaled that, and that's why you could get rid of Travis Benjamin and Simba Webster because you knew you had a return guy in Elijah Mitchell. He looked dynamic in both returns. Even though the first one he didn't get as many yards, he still was making the right reads and looked dynamic. He's fearless. That's something you need when you're running into those wedges and stuff. So that makes sense. And then also, as far as the punt return game goes, I think it's going to come down to Brandon Ayuk and Mohamed Sanu. I think those two are going to probably get the bulk of the reps. And then I think on top of that, though, you have the development of Ambry Thomas. You can develop him. He did it in college a lot. He needs to contribute to your team, in some way, and he's good at securing the ball. So let's see how he develops. I don't think he will be right away. and the punt return game. I think it'll be those other two, and then eventually Ambry Thomas can work his way in, because I think ultimately they would like to only use Brandon Ayuk in certain situations. And Mohamed Sanu is a guy that can secure the ball and get you maybe 10 yards on a punt return, which is what you're looking for, but he can't do anything dynamic with the ball, so he's more of a security guy.
Correct. And look, Tim Harris was cut by the Bills as well today, so there is also the opportunity that the Niners could try and bring that guy back onto the practice squad as well, a guy who's familiar, who's been in San Francisco. He's done some things, and they at least know him. That's a name to keep an eye on as well. That's definitely a name they could be targeting.
True.
I mean,
that
for
is
the
true.
practice squad,
I would put it on a probably not, but it doesn't, because he is out there, it makes sense. But I think that Dante Johnson's better than him. So if you could bring Dante Johnson,
I would prefer you bring Dante Johnson back. But if Dante Johnson were to get picked up, that's definitely a secondary safety
and
option.
Expect them to have more than one corner. They're going to probably have two corners and at least one safety on their practice squad.
Agreed. And Lamar Jackson was cut by the Jets. He's a defensive back. I just thought I'd throw that joke out there. You're welcome, Cutback Crew. Ha 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 ha.
I didn't like it. No.
You didn't like the Lamar Jackson defensive back from the Jets getting cut and me making it seem like
I do remember us having conversations about him last year, so.
That's true. We did have a little bit of conversations. Yeah. Coach Timo hates losing that speed with Benjamin, but he didn't impress enough on special teams, or he likely would have made it. Webster, no surprise to him. Thomas may be taking reps at punt return too. We're going to have to wait and see what they do there. But it looks like, I agree with you. It's looking like Mohamed Sanu and probably Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I think so. We've seen them receiving punts. The whole time it was Brandon Ayuk, Mohamed Sanu, River Craycraft, Travis Benjamin, Simba Webster, and then they had Kevin White. Those were the guys that were returning, kicks and punts all through the offseason. And then at some point, all of a sudden, it was Elijah Mitchell and Ambry Thomas. So the only guys that are left are Ambry Thomas, Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Ayuk, and Mohamed Sanu. So those are the guys that are probably going to handle the return game. And I think Ambry's a little bit lower on there. I would put him at 4th. I think Elijah Mitchell's the leader in the clubhouse to be the kick returner, and the other two to be the punt.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Everyone in the chat, a couple of people in the chat keep bringing up Jimmy Moreland, I believe is who they're talking about from the Washington football team. I haven't watched a whole lot on him. So that definitely could be a name that they're targeting, because it is a guy who has played games in the NFL and started a few games, a handful. I think it's 10 total. So definitely a guy that could be targeting, but I haven't watched the film on you to tell you whether or not this is actually a guy that they'd be even considering.
I think there are probably options that will perk their interest from surrounding teams.
Correct.
But I believe that they think they have the best 53-man roster right now intact. So signing guys from other teams, I think, is going to be a very low amount. Like they're not really going to have that many guys that are in on. Number one, they're up against it the salary cap way. So signing veterans is going to be a little bit more expensive. So keeping younger players on the team is beneficial to them.
Agreed.
And I think they do think they have the nice 53. They had a very nice 90 and a nice 53.
Lou, by the way, see you later, good sir. We appreciate everything that you do for the channel and for tuning in. ML, did Jalen Hurd make it? Yes, he did. Born good. How does Al-Shaair look so far? Looking healthy. Everything seems to be coming fine. The knee seems to be A-okay. He's been dealing with the elbow stuff. But as of right now, with them not making any sort of moves or even designating him for like an IR slot or anything like that, it looks like he's going to be A-okay. Sean, oh man, I want to make sure I get this right. Callaway? Oh man, I totally butchered the crap out of that.
Yeah,
Sean.
You completely butchered it.
Sean, you can just shame on me in the chat. It's fine. Brendel was a bit of a shock and a surprise for him. He's a good backup center. Thought he improved game by game. We agree with you. It definitely improved game by game, but Anthony here talked about this in Project 53. He brought this up and mentioned this. This was one of the things that he talked about. When you look at this offensive line group, you have to try and evaluate and put the importance in order based on how Kyle Shanahan views linemen. Tackles are his most important position, and then the center comes after that. You have Alex Mack, all-pro caliber center. You have Daniel Brunskill, who you're grooming and molding to be the guy behind Alex Mack at some point in time in the future. And now you have a guy like Tom Compton out there who they moved to right tackle and played very, very well at that right tackle spot, who you know can also come in and play guard if that tackle spot is more important, and he's playing it better than a guy like Colton McKivitz is. Then you have a guy like Jalen Moore who's playing tackle as well at a high level at the left tackle spot and can move inside to guard. You have two guys there now in Compton and in Jalen Moore that can flip-flop in and out, play it at a serviceable level, and a guy like Brendel, unfortunately, you're just going to have to try and hope you can get back to the practice squad, because if you can keep him around on your 55-man roster on game days.
Yeah, and I think it came down to they wanted to keep 8 because they needed to keep 11 defensive linemen. I think if they would have kept 9 offensive linemen, which is kind of traditional wisdom, they would have probably kept, Brindell with Sean Coleman being injured. It just didn't work out. They're hoping to get him to the practice squad, and that's another thing you weigh is which guy can get to the practice squad, which guy will ultimately get claimed. And you kind of make those decisions and try to live with it and hope you get guys where you want to, but, it doesn't always work out. Look at last year. They thought they were going to be able to sneak DJ Reed, with the injury where they said he was going to be out till December, sneak him, to the IR, and it didn't work out. Seattle claimed him, and he ended up being a player for them. So this kind of stuff happens. It's a gamble, but sometimes you just have to take a chance.
Kaleohi. I got you, Sean. Kaleohi.
Thank you for that, too, because we want to get it right.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Couple great questions here. Or one, let's start off with a great reaction from Taylor Gang. Tell me Tom Compton didn't make this team, please. We didn't have that reaction, but there was a lot of surprise early on. Like, wait, what?
Why do I picture who said that?
That was from Taylor Gang.
I completely picture him doing the Booker T. Tell me he did not just say that.
Tell me Tom Compton did not just say that.
Yeah, it was an interesting response.
Interesting development, absolutely.
I didn't. When I seen Colton McKivitz, I was trying to picture who the heck made the roster.
Well, that's what I mean.
When he got cut.
You said Colton McKivitz, and I started doing my brain calculations. Right? I was trying to rein the man it up. Alvin Ang, thank you for subscribing.
Yeah,
we really
welcome,
appreciate
Alvin
it.
Ang.
I was trying to do my galaxy brain calculations in my head, and I was just going, is Sean Coleman? No, he's gone. It's not Kafasi. He's gone as well. Cedric Mason, new subscriber as well.
Thank you, Cedric. We appreciate it. Welcome to the 49ers Cutback Crew.
Welcome to the Cutback Crew, both of y'all. Yeah. We really appreciate that. But trying to galaxy brain it out, and then finally got around to I literally went through every name, and then was like, but he already said Jake Brent. Oh my God, it's Tom Compton.
Yeah.
And Tom Compton. What?
Thanks for pulling that out, too, because I could not wrap my head around it. I'm going through the list, and that's why we missed Harris as well. It's like, you're going through the list, Dante Johnson, but I just assumed they only kept 5, but they kept 6.
That's what I was like, did they really keep that many? Luke Luna here with the $2 super chat. Triple thumbs up. Like the video. Help support the good content. Yes, please do that. Hit that like button.
We appreciate it.
Share the video as well with the rest of the faithful out there, because it helps. It helps grow the channel. It helps grow this Cutback Crew, which there's plenty of ways for you to interact with as well on Discord. Yeah. Link in the description, as well as in the chat. It's been popping up here and there, as well as over on Patreon. You get exclusive content there, all 22 film breakdowns when that starts, and you can become a channel member. We'll have a member-only live streams on this channel for you, early access to content as well that gets released. So a lot of great stuff. But let's get to some of these questions. Judo here had asked, how do you feel about this defense compared to the 2019 D at the season start? How does 2021's defense compare to 2019's defense coming into week 1, Ant?
I will say this, as far as depth-wise on the defensive line and overall talent on the defensive line is deeper, it's better.
Stacked.
On the outside, I think Jason Verrett is an improvement over Richard Sherman for this reason. The fact that he can do so many different things, where Sherman was kind of pigeonholed into the cover 3 and had limited man skills. Now you can run press man coverage. You can run everything with Jason Verrett. Emmanuel Mosley gives you that flexibility to do that as well. With the safeties, I think the safeties, you're a wash, right? You just got 2 guys that are more experienced that can play as long as they can stay healthy. The linebacker room is the one that's interesting because I like Aziz, but I don't think it's I mean, of course, we did have Greenlaw that kind of developed that year, but
accurate.
I don't think that the linebacker group is better than what we had with Quan Alexander to go with Fred Warner and them. So, we got a new subscriber. Valdo. Awesome. Welcome to the 49ers Cutback Crew, Valdo. We appreciate you. So that is the only thing, but I don't think it's that steep of a fall off to be very noticeable, especially with Al-Shaair only going to be playing 20 to 25% of the snaps because we're going to play primarily in the nickel. So I would say the defense is better than 2019. However, it's going to take time because I think Nick Bosa, D Ford are going to have to work their snaps up a little bit. And so once they are fully worked up, then you'll see the full development of the defense. But I do think it's a little bit better because I think we're also bigger, stronger in the middle to stop the run because we got Kinlaw, DJ Jones, Zach Kerr, and those guys.
I agree with you there. I agree with you there completely. And that's the big thing. The hard part is trying to gauge, right, where Al-Shaair is in comparison to where Dre Greenlaw was, because we saw what Dre Greenlaw eventually evolved into once he got his opportunity to get out there. Al-Shaair definitely hasn't shown that he's that. So if you look at, Dre Greenlaw, I'd say is probably as good as, if not better than Quan Alexander was when he first came in. Fred Warner is obviously a better version of what Fred Warner was in 2019 because he's just gotten better each and every year. But what is that drop-off between Shaair right? And Greenlaw, what Greenlaw was at that time. But the secondary, obviously, Jason Verrett, significantly better version than what we had in Richard Sherman in 2019. The secondary as a whole can do more things now than it could back then. So I would say overall, this team has a slight edge. I think it's trending towards to be better than the 2019 version of this defense heading into week 1. Another great question here from Simon L. Which running back do you guys see is going to get cut when Jeff Wilson returns in the middle of the season? Or are they going to find a way to keep all of these running backs? This is a great question.
It's going to be, I think my thought process is somebody's probably going to get hurt. One of these running backs will probably not be healthy when Jeff Wilson comes back.
Are they going to get hurt, and are they going to get hurt?
Either way.
No matter what, someone's getting hurt.
Both of them work, right?
It's true.
I just think that is the case. What you also might get at that point is a trade. That'll be a time when you could see a running back trade. If they're all healthy, you could see them move one of these running backs to a running back needy team and then move on from there. You just wonder if that trade will be Jeff Wilson Jr. or if it'll be one of these young guys. I think Elijah Mitchell is going to fill a role in that kick return game, so I think they like where he can go because I think he could be an eventual replacement for Raheem Mostert. Now, he can't. Raheem Mostert's so special. Right now, Elijah Mitchell can't do those things. He's not that explosive, but he is explosive.
He is explosive.
But I think that eventually they want him to take over that role. So they have a nice young group, so it'll be interesting. I don't know. Maybe Wilson gets traded at that point, but my thought process is somebody's hurt.
I would say that is that's accurate, and that's probably the way it's going to be. That's kind of the way it's going to go. Look, Sean Leoe, got it, nailed it the second time around. I got it. He asked, how far out do you think Jalen Moore is? And I think he's talking about potentially being a guy who could start and play significant snaps for this team.
At guard or tackle?
That's the question. If it's tackle, Ant, how far out do you think it actually is?
I think it's a couple of years because you've got your two tackles lined up, right?
At least for the next 2 seasons, yes.
For 3 years for Trent Williams, for sure before that contract kind of goes to that second half where you can make a decision there. Mm-hmm. And Mike McGlinchey, you got him next year for $10.8 million, which is super cheap for a run blocker of his caliber. One of the
literally top 2 run blockers in the league.
Yeah, so you're definitely not moving on from them. But what you don't have is Laken Tomlinson under contract next year. So if you decide to move on from Laken, which I like him a lot, but if you can save money by putting Jalen Moore there, have him play next to Trent Williams until he eventually, develops, what you could have, or even Aaron Banks because he's a left guard by natural trade. I just think they wanted the Notre Dame connection, putting him at right guard. But you'll have a little bit of a possibility there where he goes in and then takes over that left guard spot. So I think maybe next year, if he plays guard, a couple years before he could play tackle, because then that could be when you move off Mike McGlinchey and play him at right tackle, because I do think he's a better version of Anthony Davis, which is shocking because Anthony Davis was a first-round pick.
Yeah, agreed with you 100%. Ernest Bati, got it. I got it right. Says, you guys are beasts. We really, really, really ridiculously appreciate that. Megan was talking a little bit earlier about how someone had disliked the video and she couldn't believe it. This was a great response here from Simon L. Probably a Grant Cohn fan. It's probably someone who likes Thanos. And look, it is what it is.
Dislikes are going to happen. The way I look at it, if you're not doing
the clout.
Yeah, if you're not out there, that you're going to get a dislike no matter what. There's always going to be somebody that dislikes it.
Agreed. Man, there are so many great questions. Taylor Gang, Hurst made it. Yes, Maurice Hurst made this 53-man roster. This is probably a guy who's going to get stashed away on IR for at least 3 weeks until he's ready to go and healthy, because it is going to be about a month. So you look at that 3-week stretch. By that time, he should be coming around to being dang near close to being healthy, and they'll probably bring him back at that some point, and someone else will be parted and be on their way. Born Good asked, if Sermon do start doing more, Hasty is going to be, Hasty is going to be the number 2. What do you think?
Okay, so he's saying if Sermon doesn't start doing more, that Hasty's going to take over that number 2 spot.
Yes.
I think that's a little early.
It's early, yeah.
Yeah, but I think because we haven't seen Sermon be able to spin the way he's going to be able to. I will say this though, JaMychal Hasty has cleaned up a lot of things. One of those things was vision, and he's done less of running into defenders, less of running into offensive linemen's backs, more of jump cutting, pressing to the line of scrimmage, jump cutting, get to the outside where he can be successful, but keeping his eyes upfield to look for little cutback lanes. So that has improved. I think he's earned himself more carries, and I think right now he is running back 3, but he's going to have to continue to develop if he's going to be able to catch Trey Sermon, because they think the world of Trey Sermon. Now, the one thing JaMychal Hasty does better than Trey Sermon right now is catch the ball in the backfield. So he's more valuable that way. But that also lends himself to be more of a third down back. So we'll see what he does. We'll see if he ends up being what they ultimately had in mind for McKinnon. If maybe he could fill that role. I think that is where Elijah Mitchell also succeeds because he's one heck of a pass catcher.
That's true. Hella subbed. This is great. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you for subscribing as well. That was great. Sean had talked about also that he thought the Griffith move was sheer wizardry, right? We didn't necessarily get more picks because we flopped picks, but what we did do was take a team in Denver, right, that needed help at the linebacker spot. They get a guy like Jonas Griffith who could definitely develop into something special here by middle of the season. And you're able to move up from what you're hoping is the back end of the 7th round to mid to early 6th round. That's a huge jump. And the Niners have shown that they know how to hit on guys in that 5th, 6th round, late rounds of the draft. So this is a great move for the 49ers this year. Obviously, next year we flop back. We take our 6th the next year and move back into the 7th round. So we'll double up on 7th round picks in 2023. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and the thing is what you're trying to do is do what they did. So now they're going to be drafting the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th this year. No 1st round pick and no 7th. But there's a lot more value in that 6th round. Look where they got Elijah Mitchell. They were definitely not looking to pick in the 7th round. I don't think that's where they want to live anymore. They want to live from 6th early. So they're doing a good job of trying to make sure that they take care of the draft next year. They'll worry about 2023 eventually when that comes. But there was definite value in making this move and also putting Jonas Griffith in an opportunity to be able to play football because I think they do care about this guy. They like him. They've seen what he's done and development-wise. They want to see him be successful. Shocking that John Lynch calls his old buddy John Elway and they get something done.
That's very true. A couple more questions here that we'll take. Born Good asks, do you think it's Kinlaw's breakout season? Yes.
I think now, especially that you surround him with all these other weapons, it's going to be hard. He's not going to be double teamed. Think about that. Who are you going to double team? If you're going to let Nick Bosa, D Ford, or those guys operate on the outside without any help, then that means they're going to make plays. And if you are doubling them, sending a running back, having a tight end chip, that means you're going to have opportunities on the inside for Armstead, Kinlaw, DJ Jones, and those guys to make plays. I think Kinlaw could do some damage. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think Kinlaw could have a breakout year this year.
Absolutely. He's definitely going to have a breakout year this year. Indeed, he has all the weapons. He's developed the game. We've seen some of the physicality already and the presence he plays with. You can't double up Kinlaw because if you do, you free up everyone else like you talked about. And let's not forget, right? You're going to have situations and scenarios where you're going to be able to throw Kinlaw and Armstead interior with Bosa and Ford or Bosa and Ebicom or Ebicom and Ford on the exterior. You're also going to have situations where you're going to have potentially a Bosa or an Ebicom lined up inside with Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa, and D Ford out on the field. NFC West, NFL, offensive lines, quarterbacks, big yikes. Yeah. You don't want that. No. You don't want any part of that.
That's problems.
That's major problems. Might be actually a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Nice way.
They have 99 problems, and Kinlaw's all of them.
Correct. Alex, who do you think solidifies the wide receiver 3 spot by the end of the season? I've said this before, and I will say it again. I don't think there's going to be a traditional true wide receiver 3. And I think, Ant, you're in the same boat with me on this. Kyle Shanahan is going to use all of these guys in that sort of role. You're going to have situations where Hurd is going to be the guy out there operating as the third wide receiver, doing fly sweeps, short stuff, deep stuff, middle of the field, operating as a possession guy. Trent Sherfield, we know, can do all of those things already. We've seen it. And then you have Sanu, who's going to have his time and his place where he's out there operating. If you're asking me to pick a number of who plays the most amount of snaps, man, that's hard because there's no way to know what the situations you're going to find yourself in on those second and third downs are. If your running game's great, you may find yourself a lot of the season in second and shorts, third and shorts. Maybe you don't see as many 3 wide receiver sets. It's more, 2 tight end sets and things of that nature going 2 by 2 there. In that regard, maybe you're seeing a whole heavy dose of Jalen Hurd in the situations because you're having him out there, right? You have that running threat along with a guy like Deebo Samuel and Ayuk who can all run those fly sweep, jet sweep type actions. Again, more names and more bodies to have to account for if you're the defense. It's really, really hard. If I'm a betting man, I would say right now it's Trent Sherfield because he's done the most of this wide receiving core in preseason so far. But I won't be shocked, Ant, if it's literally all of these guys, and Sing 84, if it's literally all these guys with a pretty, all within 2 to 3% of each other of snaps and shared snap percentages played.
Yeah, I think early in the season, it'll be Trent Sherfield and Mohamed Sanu that get the most snaps behind Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And then I think after that, they'll kind of all slow catch up because Kyle Shanahan doesn't look at it as this guy's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He looks at this is my wide receiver room. They all have skill sets that I want to use. and I'm going to put them out there in situations to be successful. I'm going to take advantage of the mismatches. So a lot of it, how these guys play from game to game is going to depend on what scheme they're going against, what personnel is on the other side. I mean, we saw it against the Raiders. You get Amick Robertson in the slot, and he's 5'9", 175 pounds, matched up with a Mohamed Sanu, and you're going to take a shot on that every single day. So when you can take advantage of those matchups, you do. That is what Kyle Shanahan's going to do.
Monica, who? I don't know who you're talking about. We don't know who that is around here. Look, this is a great question here from Judo. And what is your guys' schedule during the season? Do you go live on game days? I'm so glad you asked, because now we get the plug. We get to plug it all away. Look, it's really simple here on this channel. You get daily videos at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You don't want to miss those. We go live daily at 11 a.m. Mondays right now, 9 a.m.s. You get 49ers face-off. It was a little bit of a different schedule this week. We released it on Tuesday because 53-man rosters came out today. So we wanted Project 53 on Monday. So we moved the schedule around. But going forward, Mondays, 9 a.m., 49ers face-off. 11 a.m., daily videos here. Thursday, right? Thursday is our game preview shows, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. It is a live stream. You want to be here for those. We preview the game. We give you the heads up and the inside scoop on what's going on. And then wonderful stuff. You have Sunday reaction shows immediately after games end. So when the game gets over, 49ers game is officially done and off, you know where to hop over right here on YouTube to the 49ers Cutback page, because you can get live reactions. And then Mondays, our 11 a.m. episode is actually a game recap show. So it's a full, in-depth breakdown, recap of what just happened with the 49ers.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. And we're going to have all 22 film breakdowns all throughout the season over on our Patreon. So if you want to get those, once Game Pass goes live with that, because the NFL pulled a little swerve on us, but once that happens, we'll be doing the all 22 film breakdowns as well. Those will be available on Tuesdays and on Fridays. We're going to be the Tuesday ones breaking down the game that just happened, the Friday ones previewing the game that is going to happen. So it's going to be exciting times where there's lots of opportunities to be able to consume 49ers content and interact with us, and I think that's what's fun. But yeah, these are always a blast when we get to do live streams and get interaction with everyone in all the comments. It's cool.
Agreed. And that will be over on Patreon. And Patreon also doesn't just have the game film breakdowns. It also has a 49ers Cutback in Time. It also has Big Yikes, which just debuted this week. It's a very first episode in which Ant and I dive into really, really bad 49ers takes on the internet and have a good, hearty laugh. We may end up on Big Yikes ourselves one day. We could. As of right now, though, we're pretty safe.
Yeah, so far we're doing good. But if we have a classic blunder, we will end up on Big Yikes.
One of the classic blunders.
Let's be honest. If Jalen Hurd wouldn't have made this roster, I would have ended up on Big Yikes.
That would have been next week. Literally, the first take on Big Yikes would have been all of the clips of Ant quadrupling down on Jalen Hurd making this 53-man roster.
It's true. And you know what? I told you I would own it. And that's what you have to do. If you make a take, you go bold. It's okay to make it. You just have to eat it along the way.
But, Ant, do you have to eat anything? Or do we now get to throw the Jalen Hurd effect out there into the ether? Go watch that. All the new people who subbed today, all 211 of you in chat right now. After this, go check out the Jalen Hurd effect. We've been saying it for the longest time.
Yeah, you can get a glimpse of exactly how they're going to use him during the season.
This guy is going to be special, especially once he gets his legs underneath him and he gets the rust off. This is going to be absolutely incredible what he adds to this offense and what he adds to this team. But Ant, man, we've been going for a while.
Yeah.
We've brought these we've gone through the cuts. We've talked about all of this. We've given you all the great insight. Monica, Browns are going to sign Nick Mullins. They need backup quarterbacks there. Good for them.
Big yikes.
I agree with you there. Which one's a bigger yikes? Which one's a bigger yikes, Ant? Nick Mullins to the Browns or Josh Rosen to the Falcons and making the 53-man roster?
Making the 53-man roster for Rosen.
A major yikes.
Yeah.
Chris Collinsworth doesn't even like it.
Chris Collinsworth, no.
I don't agree with almost anything that Chris Collinsworth says, but that one, you right. You right, Chris.
Yes, longtime Niner fan. The jersey is on the horizon. In fact, I probably need to order that today so that way I can wear the Jalen Hurd jersey. I was waiting for him to not to make the team, lock in the number. Because he's been 17, he's been 14. I was so afraid he's going to change his number. Once he locks in 14, this is happening.
Yep, it'll happen. It'll be on here. And don't worry. We'll tease it too. You'll know what stream that's going to be on or when it's going to be happening. But look, there's so much great content coming to this channel. We're still growing and adding videos and adding content and just new formats to this channel as well. So you want to be here for all of that because those will get announced and released as they're about to go live. Also, all the new people who came in and joined today, do not forget, if you're a fantasy football person, right now in our community posts, there's signups for fantasy football and the Madden League. So make sure you hop over there. Fantasy League stuff ends tomorrow night at 11:59. So it'll be the last chance to sign up for the Fantasy League, and the Madden League ends on Friday, so make sure you go sign up for those as well.
Yeah, and there may be a little bit of the Jalen Hurd video coming soon where we break down some of these drops. Was it his fault? Was it not? I think we're going to get into the ins and outs of that. That could be coming down the line here pretty soon. We'll let you know when that happens because I think a lot of people are interested in this.
Hold up, Ant.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hold up. That's a bold take there, Resk. That's a bold take.
What do you say?
Hurd will be cut after this year.
Ooh.
I got the receipts, my guy. I got the receipts. If it's not, Rest, you can guarantee if Hurd is on the roster next year, you are going to be featured on Big Yikes. I'm calling it right now. So head on over to Patreon as well. You can get signed up for everything we got over there.
I like the conviction, though. I mean, if you have a belief, you put it out there. You have conviction. I like it.
Also, if he does end up getting cut, this will also end up, no matter what, this is ending up on Big Yikes.
Yeah,
because it's either going to be
Alex,
me, it'll either be me, or it's going to be you.
It'll just be me crying.
Also that as well. Look, this is a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. All the new members of the Cutback Crew, thank you so much. And to the day one OGs who have been here since we were a 50 sub channel posting content that was getting like 10 views and no one was watching when we were making our silly skits back right when we were finding out who the playoff quarterback was going to be for the Eagles, which we ended up being 100% right about. Jalen Hurts ended up being the playoff quarterback for the Eagles.
True.
So, accurate since day one. The Cutback Crew has been accurate since its conception. We love all of you. We appreciate all the support, all of the new members. Man, Ant, this was one heck of a stream.
Yeah, it was exciting. I can't wait to talk more 49ers football. There's going to be plenty to talk about during the week. Tomorrow, practice squad is going to be happening, so we're going to get an insight into what the 49ers ultimately do with those 16 players and how this roster is completely shooken out. So this is exciting. Get involved, become a channel member, join Patreon, and just get involved in the conversation. If you're leaving comments and you're joining the chat, we are excited to have you here no matter what it is. You're always welcome here no matter what opinion you have. You're always welcome here. As long as you're not derogatory to the people that are here, it is fine. Have different takes. Just be nice. And we can all accept and look at everyone's personal point of view and just enjoy 49ers football together.
Agreed. That's the thing. We want everyone to be able to have their voice and have their voice heard. We want to have conversation. We don't want to shut down conversation. So keep it on the up and up.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Keep it on the up and up. And longtime Niner fan, thank you for that. Congrats on 1.5K subs. And we've been talking all this content. We didn't even realize we just hit our goal.
Yeah,
this was our goal.
Yeah, we're trying to get there before the first game, and because of everybody that's getting involved in the chat and all the 49ers Cutback Crew sharing, liking, commenting consistently and putting our stuff out there, we got to 1,500 before the season. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
We really, really appreciate it. We can't thank you enough for all the support, and we're so excited for everything we got coming because the next preview show, Ant, we have is a full preview show. It's none of this preseason stuff. You're going to get to go full in on all of the great things.
Yeah, because we have a weird live stream this week because we have no game.
It's true. It's going to be a fun
live stream where we're going to answer a ton of questions.
It's going to be heavy Q&A, so be ready for Thursday's live stream, 5:30 Pacific time.
For the good guys.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Robert Anthony Jr. with a huge sub there right at the end.
Right at the end gets put out on air. We love it.
We appreciate it so much. But Cutback Crew 49ers fans, until next time, you stay safe.
And remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.